Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where, yes, we've finally come around. Well, maybe not come around. In terms of we're finally covering the Star Wars prequels.
We watch those movies.
We've started with this one at the very least, and we'll see how it goes.
How we go, yeah.
Yeah.
James, we watched every Twilight movie. We're not going to stop midway through the prequel Star Wars trilogy.
That's a
How
great
dare
point.
us for even contemplating that after what we've done.
Leave a like if you could. And I guess I've got a question and a statement,
I'm
to
ready.
start things
Great.
off. First of all, it's all been said, etc. and so forth. Will you hear anything new here? I don't know. I've tried to grab some talking points that maybe people haven't heard of before. Some classic hits as well, you know.
James, let me tell you this. Did you know that the original working title for Star Wars was Blue Harvest? Did you know that?
We're not talking about Blue Harvest, Mason.
Oh, I got to go and watch a movie real quick then.
But look, I'll say this. I've come, and I think a lot of people have, a long way on the prequels. I don't hate them as much as I used to, but I'm certainly not one of those people that have come right around on them, and I'm now like, oh my God, I get it now. It's beautiful and real. And
There has been a real resurgence, I think, in terms of the critical opinion of this. Now, the last time we watched this movie, we did a commentary on it.
We did.
But I don't think that was a fair evaluation of the movie because as we've done a lot of commentaries, and as we've learned, if you actually sit down and focus and watch the movie, you stop commenting. So we find it's best to skim the movie a little bit. So the last time I really sat down and watched this movie properly before right now was when it came out in cinemas.
Okay, yeah.
And in watching it now, I came away with two sort of major observations about this movie that I wouldn't have had then. And the number one thing is it is genuinely, it was then and it is now a staggering achievement in terms of technical innovation.
Absolutely.
And big budget production. Obviously, and we'll get into this, but obviously, just the idea of actors on set and their movements are being, recorded and rotoscoped and etc. They're wearing these rigs and then they're converted into fully computer-generated characters.
Yep.
There's actors working against completely computer-generated backgrounds. And even beyond that, just the idea, and you often see it in the making of, just the idea of all these artists and animators and production crew who had to put together hundreds, if not thousands, of background characters and alien races and droids and spaceships and pod races and weapons and props and costumes and beautiful environments. The idea of we have to take the Star Wars universe and bring it back to what it was before it was this dirty, horrible universe. And just all these ideas, and they had to do hundreds of variations of all of that sort of stuff. It's like Ben-Hur.
Absolutely.
The sheer scale of the whole thing, and the idea that it came out at all is amazing. And the second note I have is, I hate this movie. I didn't like it at the time when it came out. I was mystified by the 5-star review in the newspaper because we had newspapers at the time. And I'm like, I don't like this and I don't know why really. But having rewatched it, I definitively hate it. And you're allowed to like it if you're out there. I know there's been a big resurgence in this thing, and people are like, "Oh, I watched it as a kid and I liked it, and it's a big part of my childhood." And it's like the original trilogy for a lot of people. And I actually think it's quite. You're allowed to have your opinion about this bad movie. You're allowed to like this bad movie.
See, here's the thing.
We'll get into it, but oh my God, the fact that it's completely computer generated, and we're in this era where nobody has worked with that before. None of these actors have worked against nothing before.
Well, that's
and
true,
everybody's talking like they're a block of wood.
Yeah, and everybody's recorded on different days. A lot of the time, they'll have 2 takes of the same shot and then splice them together because George Lucas is obviously micromanaging a lot of this. At the same time, though, this, in terms of the prequels, this does a lot of old school stuff.
Yep.
There is a lot of model making and there is a lot of actual set and costume design. And all of these things kind of fall away in the following
Yes, they sure do, yeah.
prequels. But I think there's some, as you mentioned, some beautiful design work and sets, and there's real explosions, and they visit real locations, and they're modeling the palace inside, and then it's this incredibly detailed miniature on the outside, and the starships and the starfighters and everything's so shiny and sleek.
Yeah, and
I think it's amazing.
And they had to literally go, okay, what is the aesthetic of an entire planet?
Yeah. Multiple planets.
Yeah,
also,
well, every time they did one, they had to go, okay, well, let's base this on maybe an Earth-like culture, but now we have to do a new version of the entire world, in every palace and every street and the city and what everybody wears and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's amazing.
Okay, I'm going to try and turn you around on this.
All right, good luck.
maybe you're
Good luck turning me around. Look, this is not new stuff, but the opening crawl, the call to action and adventure of this movie, it's like, look out, there's taxation. Look out.
Okay, let's talk about that because
trade routes, there's a blockade.
Okay, for one, I just want to get into a little bit of the background of this, just a fraction of it. Okay, so George Lucas decided to both write and direct this on his own. He hadn't directed since the first Star Wars movie. He also had other people involved in all of those movies, you know, less so with these ones. He actually asked Lawrence Kasdan to come back and help with the writing.
Who helped write Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly, and he's also worked on some of the newer ones as well. He wanted to get Spielberg to direct at one point. Ron Howard was asked, but he turned it down because he's like, I don't think this is a task that I'm up for yet.
Clint Howard said he was interested.
And obviously, the making of this movie itself, that behind-the-scenes documentary, fascinating. It's way more interesting than this movie itself. It just gives a whole lot of insight into the thought process behind this. But here's the thing, right? George Lucas has talked about how this is designed to work silently. This is designed to work outside of the dialogue. That's why it appeals so much to international audiences as well, because you could just really lock in and watch this and go, this fight scenes, it's pretty, that pod is pretty fast, isn't it?
That is in a similar vein to the much later and much celebrated Mad Max Fury Road, which apparently was designed to always be in motion, and you could understand it with the sound off. And you know what? Tell you what, if you told me about that yesterday, I would have watched it with the sound off, and I would have had a better experience, quite frankly. I'm just stuck on the dialogue. I can't.
Well, yeah, the dialogue was very much a second thought, and in addition to that, performances and also the relationships and the charisma between the cast, none of that mattered as much as it did in the original ones. Like, they cast that core trio based off their chemistry. And here they just went, you, and yeah, you'll do. And it shows.
Can you do an Obi-Wan Kenobi impression? Oh, you can? Natalie Portman, you're in.
Okay, I also want to talk about, you alluded to it, the politics of it. I know people talk about how, you know, Star Wars is like, you know, there's too much politics in it now. And I think what people mean to say is like, there's too much politics that I don't necessarily like. Star Wars has always, at its core, been political. These ones, it's very much at the forefront.
Yeah, what they meant usually was, I was too young to notice the politics in the early ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look at this through the lens of like a corrupt and ineffectual governmental system, I think that's fascinating. And there's some really obvious parallels, which I'd love to talk about. First of all, ineffectual leaders creating international senatorial gridlock, right?
Oh, yes.
Intentional thing George Lucas did, right?
James, you are turning me around on this. This is incredible. Lee Boring.
An ineffectual and distant police force, you know, who protect those in power, and people out in the outer rim and, you know, lower socio-economic areas are just killing each other in the dirt.
And when finally one of those police officers finally goes and he meets those people and he's like, wow, I didn't realize this at the time. He's like, I'm going to take one of you.
The good one.
Not your mum, though.
Yeah, exactly.
She can stay in the dirt.
Yeah. Also, corporate interests ruining democracy. Also, Newt Gunray is Newt Gingrich. Like, that is true. Lot Dodd, who's his mate, you know. You know the guys, they're doing the voices. I'm not going to do the voice, but, you know, they're doing the voices. He's an amalgamation of two former senators, Trent Lott and Chris Dodd. Chancellor Valorum is based on Bill Clinton. And I love this quote from George Lucas. He called Clinton a good man, but he's beleaguered. Like, that's wrong. I understand what you're going for, but he's not a good man. He's awful and should be in prison.
Okay, but that character was excellent on the Jizzomophone. You know?
Sure.
Just laying down a Jizzomophone solo. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I think all of that, we've seen senatorial gridlock. We've seen what happens when corporate interests take precedent over what people actually want.
This movie predicted the future.
Well, I think it's just always been the way it is. Do you know what I mean?
You're right.
That's how it is. There's a pod race.
There sure is. I've written this pod race as an absolute chore to watch. Again, maybe it's better in silence.
Well, see, I think I've always thought that it was too long. But going back now, I appreciate it a lot more. I genuinely think that it is an amazing sequence. The sound design is amazing. Like, each ship has its own, like, particular ka-chugga-chugga-chug, you know, as it goes past. The sense of speed is really good.
When a pod racer crashes to the ground, explodes, I'm very impressed by the debris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I was.
Like, a lot of that stuff is, you know, well, it's a mix. It's real and it's CGI. They did a lot of it for real. which I think shows. Look, I think maybe I've been praising this for too long because there's a lot of things that I don't like about this. For one, the character of Qui-Gon Jinn, right? First of all, you do the pod race. Why don't you do it? You could just stop everybody from racing with your mind. You could slam them into walls. You could do that whole thing at 20 miles per hour.
You know what? As a kid,
Get Obi-Wan to do it.
Right?
He's like, oh, I don't fly. You do fly. We've seen you do it.
That's right. As a kid, this, I think, was one of those movies where I watched it and it was unsatisfying to me narratively, and I didn't know why. But over the years, I haven't learned anything about filmmaking, but I have watched a lot of Screen Rant pitch meetings, and I'll tell you what. The reason this movie, to me, is narratively unsatisfying is because so many things happen in it because they need the movie to keep going. You know, there's a scene where Qui-Gon Jinn, as you mentioned, he's very happy to Jedi mind trick Wingsy Snouter, what's that guy's name? Watto, into accepting worthless galactic credits and then potentially ruining his business.
Yeah.
But he draws the line at just stealing the bit he needs?
Yeah, exactly. Or sell your ship and get a different ship. Or get the bus. Which they do. Like, we've seen that in the prequels. They put Anakin and Padme on what is essentially a space Greyhound bus in the next movie.
Yeah.
You don't need this particular thing. Do you remember in the first Star Wars, original Star Wars? They're just like, here's 10 grand, take us to this place.
That's right.
You know? Like, I do not get it. Like, the whole Tatooine sequence, and it is fascinating to see this side of Tatooine and fleshing it out more. Like, I do enjoy all that world building, and they're slaves for some reason, I guess. But it's just, like, I don't understand.
Watto's a slave owner.
Exactly.
Just kill him and take Anakin and his mum.
Yeah, I completely
agree.
agree.
Want to set. I know, but that's the thing. Watto needs to not be able to accept galactic credits so we can have a pod race later. And Anakin needs to be separated from his mother so he can fall to the dark side and she can get killed later and he can be sad and mad about it.
Let's talk about Anakin.
Okay,
I feel really bad for Jake Lloyd. I'm going to start off with that. None of this was his fault.
Yeah.
He has had a very difficult life as a result of this movie. He was more recently diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was horribly bullied at school. No good. And none of that is his fault. It was George Lucas's decision. And I'm not saying George Lucas is responsible for what happened to him. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Bring on the bullies. No. I've hired an assortment of bullies.
But what I mean is, like, he decided to cast him young because it's more impactful when you separate a child from his mother than, a dude wwho's 20. And it's like, I'm just gonna go, you know? Like, it's different. And that's why they decided to do it. Also, and we've talked about this before, if you watch the behind the scenes, he's not the best one in the audition.
Are you an angel?
What?
An angel. I've heard the deep space pilots talk about them.
There's a documentary on YouTube called In a Galaxy Far, Far Away, I Was Almost Anakin Skywalker. It's about the guy who nearly got it.
Yeah, wow.
And just like his life as a result of nearly being in Star Wars.
Still an actor?
I don't think he is, no, but he's fine. So
yeah, makes a lot of sense, actually, yeah.
He seems to be doing really well.
I feel bad and I worry about the kid who's just been cast as young Luke Skywalker in Obi-Wan. I'm like, they better look after that kid.
I think people have learnt
from
I hope
this.
So. I'd hope so.
James, have you seen the internet ever?
Yeah, but, I think people are a bit more sensitive to, child actors and bullying and the effect that these things can have on people. And we'll talk about Jar Jar in a minute. But one of the things I do like about the character of Anakin Skywalker is, like, any child that you'll ever meet, they're just fascinated about this one thing and they can't let it go. Like, everything's just like, this is like pod racing. Did you know I'm a pod racer? I built a pod racer. I'm flying this ship into another ship. This is like pod racing. It's not like pod racing. Stop talking about pod racing.
This is war, boy.
I enjoy that aspect of it. I also liked how he was like, I had a dream, I came back to Tatooine and I freed all the slaves. Except you didn't. That didn't happen. Also, we know that because in Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt still has slaves.
Oh, that's true.
Also, the Princess Leia bikini is in this movie. There's somebody standing next to him wearing it, which means that person probably got eaten by a Rancor, and then they hosed it off.
Oh, no.
How many people did it go through, you know what I mean, before it got to Princess Leia? So, do you want to talk about Jar Jar, though?
Like, yeah, sure.
See, look, I get that he's annoying, right? But I would also say that if you take everybody who's in Star Wars, probably about 50% of them are annoying to some degree. And your 50% might be different than another person's 50%, right? I do think, though, when you mentioned this up top, he is an absolutely remarkable special effect, including like the performance capture, including the way that he interacts with scenes. You never really question that he's not real. And I don't think Ahmed Best or the team behind this they don't get any of the credit. They do more so now, but, it's always like, oh, Gollum, look what Gollum did. And Gollum's amazing. I'm not here to say that Gollum is not amazing, Mason. I'm not here to do that.
I mean, your tone suggests otherwise, but all right.
But really, he's also suffered as a result of being in these movies. Like, he's come to terms with it now, but he's a pioneer. He really is.
Yeah.
It's pretty annoying, though. And
I've written here, all these CGI creatures are cinematic marvels, but I hate them. And I hate them to this day.
And you know what I think is an element of that he's annoying to me in particular? It's that you never quite catch what he's saying. You have to think about it, and that's annoying.
Sure.
Where, like, Yoda spoke a certain way, but you never had to be like, excuse me, what? You know what I mean? Like, he said actual words, where here he's like, flippity-dippity, bloobity-bab. And I'm like, what?
Maybe that's because a lot of his backstory is quite grim. And if he spoke like a normal man, you couldn't put that on a T-shirt. Just like, I was banished from my underwater city because I stank. What was the deal with that guy?
I actually figured it out. So Boss Nass banished Jar Jar for crashing his personal Hey Blibber submarine.
There it is.
Yeah, it's actually in the movie, but I couldn't. Yeah, I didn't catch it.
So a T-shirt with Jar Jar's face, and then it says, I was banished for vehicular manslaughter.
He's been banished again for ruining the Senate as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. Should have killed him. Ewan McGregor's wig. You know the reshoots in this movie, don't you?
Yes.
Because Ewan McGregor looks completely different. He's talked about that recently, and also how, like, he was annoyed because he always knew that wig looked stupid, and then the first poster he ever saw, like, out and about when he's driving around in Hollywood, like, he's wearing that, and he's like, oh, no. Here's the thing about the character of Obi-Wan.
Go on.
First of all, he's hardly in it. And I'll tell you why, though. He was supposed to do everything that Qui-Gon did. Qui-Gon wasn't supposed to show up until they hit Coruscant. So all the things that Qui-Gon does, I feel like all that character development, all that meeting of Anakin, the pod racing, this and that. When I first met your father, he was a great pilot or whatever. I don't understand why they didn't give it to him. Is it because Liam Neeson was more of the known actor at the time, like he'd done Schindler's List? Is that what happened here?
Yeah, we needed a real Schindler's List vibe for this children's movie.
Yeah. Look, I've got some opinions on Qui-Gon Jinn, Mason. I'm going to do it right now. At the very start of the movie, Obi-Wan says to Qui-Gon, I have a bad feeling about this. And Qui-Gon says, I don't sense anything.
Wow.
Great. Good work.
You didn't sense any of those battle droids or the poison gas?
Nah.
Should have put poison in the tea, if you ask me.
Close the doors. Leave him in there for like a year.
Yeah, right.
Do not open that door.
Yeah.
Just ever.
Let him die of old age. Jettison that bit into space.
The villains. Trade Federation.
Sure.
How are you on battle droids?
I think initially, I remember thinking at the time, oh, battle droids, that's pretty cool. And then those rolly droids come in with the force fields. I'm like, those are pretty cool.
What else?
More of that for 2 hours, I guess. Yeah, no, it's yeah. And I understand, because, you don't want them tearing shreds off human bad guys or whatever, just beheading a bunch of human men. But it loses its sparkle very quickly, doesn't it?
I think so. But one thing I do like about them is you get to see kind of the Jedi like move in their prime. But also, like, none of the Jedi, I think, and this speaks to also the larger narrative in the prequels, that the Jedi are no good. Like, they've clearly not been training properly because they can beat, like, they're essentially like broomsticks with guns, right?
Sure.
And they can't shoot for shit. They don't know what they're doing. They bicker amongst themselves. They trip over. But then the second that something rolls up with a shield, they're just like, oh no. And they just like, they run. You know what I mean? Like, they're not ready for any of this. But I like seeing Jedi just carve these things up. It's a stupid thing to build. And I think it's intentional. You know what I mean? To be like, this is your army? Really?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing that you chose? I think the idea that the Jedi, they're no good. It takes two of them to kill one apprentice Sith, and one of them doesn't make it through it. They're not ready for any of this.
If only Obi-Wan had some sort of powerful dash move that could have gotten him through that video game style, continually switching on and off force field wall. If only there was if only they exhibited some sort of powerful super speed dash move earlier in the movie.
No, you only get one in your life.
Oh, man. Wow. Makes sense, actually. Yeah, okay. Somebody put that on Wikipedia. That'd solve a lot of problems, I think. They should have said it in the movie. You want to do the once-in-a-lifetime dash, young Padawan? Sure do. Chow.
I love all the lightsaber stuff, like Nick Gillard, who choreographed this. I think seeing this balletic version of fighting, it's really cool, and we hadn't seen anything like it. And I know at times it does look very choreographed.
But at the time, astounding.
I think even now, and there's
Yeah.
little moments where, like, the moment where they first save the Queen on Naboo, like, they drop down, and Qui-Gon, like, cuts through one, and then he spins his lightsaber around and, like, hooks it on his belt. And I'm like, that's fucking cool.
And Obi-Wan does his jumpy double
He
kick.
does his jumpy
Oh
double
my God.
kick. Exactly.
They should add that into the special edition of Episode 4. Just have Alec Guinness do a double jumpy kick.
And even, you know, when they go up against Darth Maul, incredible villain. Like, incredible design, voice of Peter Seraphina, which Ray Parker's obviously doing the body work.
Sure, yeah.
Which some would say is the most important part, you know?
Yeah.
But the idea of having a double-bladed lightsaber, which means you can fight multiple Jedi at once.
Did they spoil that in the trailer, or were we all surprised?
In one of the
Okay.
trailers, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's really terrific. And, you know, that whole sequence at the end, the Duel of the Fates, just terrific. And there's really cool little moments where, for example, there's a moment where Qui-Gon just lands a punch on him.
Sure.
And I think that's great. You know? Just like, you could do that in a fight, can't
Right
you?
in his nuts. I can't remember where he hit him, but...
In the face.
Well, that's where that race keeps their nuts.
That's it,
So-
yeah. Yeah, but look, I want to get back to the Jedi Council.
Okay.
What an awful pack of nerds.
Yeah,
You
I know, sure,
Just
yeah.
terrible. And like, they bring this boy, they're like, okay, show us the kid. Just show us the kid, right? And then they're like, what's this? It's a ship. What's this? I don't know, it's another thing, whatever. And they're like, oh, you're afraid, are you? Oh, you're cold, are you? He's like, yeah, I live on a sand planet. I live with my mum and you took me here. Like,
Oh, you live with your mum, did you? Haven't moved out, eh?
And then they're just...
Mummy's boy lives with his mum, eh?
And then they're just like, nah, kick rocks, mate. Like,
Yeah.
you're not in. It's bizarre.
Yeah. The point there is obviously they're a decaying institution, despite their beautiful,
exactly.
their beautiful Jedi chambers and etc. It's like, well, they've gone wrong and they need this big, you know, they need the destruction of the Jedi to really to change their ways and whatever. But it's like, maybe just give him a little apartment, keep an eye on him or something, you know?
If you were just nice to him, he wouldn't have killed you all. And you know what? I'm glad he did. Quite frankly, I'm glad. And I think it's really funny where before Qui-Gon finds out that Anakin is not to be trained, Obi-Wan's like, this is bad news. What are you doing? And Qui-Gon's like, mind your business. You've got a lot to learn. And then the next scene, he's like, oh, you don't want to train this kid? Yeah, I'll train him. And Obi-Wan's like, what? And then he's like, oh yeah, he's ready for the trials, I reckon. Previous scene, he's like, you need to get it together. And as soon as he gets a new apprentice, he's like, nah, you're out. I got this new guy, I reckon.
You'll be fine. We'll fudge the numbers. Fudge the numbers is trial. It's fine. You don't have to do a reverse park. It's fine. We'll skip that.
I think if the council liked Qui-Gon, for one, they would have let him train Anakin.
Yeah.
And two, they would have sent more than 2 Jedi to go
Yeah.
to Naboo to deal with the war that was happening.
Yeah.
You know? I
maybe-
think they're just like, we hate this guy.
Yeah.
Can we get him killed? Do you know about Fake Windu in this?
No, but it sounds great.
So at the very end...
I'm aware of the character of Mace Windu.
Yes, that's right. So at the very end, they all go to Naboo for a big celebration. They hold up a big orb or whatever,
Oh,
right?
yeah, nice.
And all the Jedi like file out of the ship, right? And that's cool. And there's a guy there who's dressed like Mace Windu, and he has a shaved head like Mace Windu, but it's just some guy.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know whether they forgot to digitally replace him. They clearly couldn't get Sam Jackson back. So there's just this character, and I'd love to know if, like, I probably should have looked into this, whether he's got his own Wikipedia.
I mean, Gene's guy does.
Exactly.
So this guy got
like,
it, right?
Is he, like...
There is no way on Earth that somebody hasn't filled in the backstory of that guy. And if they haven't, they need to. Imagine there being any character, main or supporting, or just a background extra,
Or mentioned.
who hasn't had their own backstory filled in by now.
I agree.
That'd be amazing if he's the only one.
Just quickly, like, I feel like we neglect this every time we do one of these.
Go on.
The sound in this is amazing. The John Williams score is like, it's just always excellent. Ben Burt's back for the sound design, and he did a bunch of other stuff on this. And just like things like the clickety clack of the droids, you know what I mean? As they're strutting around. I mean, Duel of the Fates, just it's all just really terrific, right? The end battle. Okay,
Sure, I'm listening.
And there's that famous sequence in the documentary where George Lucas is like, I think I've gone too far, etc., and so forth. But what they've actually done here, and I think this is fascinating. It's too much, right? And there's a reason
You're
why.
talking all the Gungans and all the everybody versus the droid army and so forth.
Yeah, so it's the Gungan battle.
Gungas.
It's the space battle.
Yep.
It's the throne room arrest of Newt Gunray or whatever battle.
Yeah.
And there's Darth Maul, right? And the reason this happened, I think, is because in episode 4 there was one battle at the end. It's a space battle. In episode 5, there's 2 battles. Luke is fighting Darth Vader. They're running around Cloud City. Episode 6, it's 3 battles, whatever happens in that movie. So they've gone, let's do 4 battles.
Let's do 4 battles.
And it's too many battles.
I agree.
Get rid of some of those, or combine like the Gungans and the Newt Gunray thing together.
Sure.
Have them come to the outside of the city, and they just like, we're here for a battle, and all the droids run out, and then they're like, nah, and they leave. And you don't need to do the battle. You don't need to do any of the Jar Jar running around stuff.
Gungans and Gunray together at last. That's what I would have said.
I've just thought of something.
Go on.
Gungan style. Is that anything? Has anybody ever thought of that?
Yes, without looking it up, yes. Absolutely.
No, there's a fun video.
Oh,
on it
nice.
if you've
Okay,
ever,
great.
If you've ever seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I believe you.
It's really good. It's
Terrific.
not what you think it is. You should look it up. It's really funny.
Wow.
Okay, so
Is it a porno thing?
it's not a porno. I mean, there would be one, but that's not the one I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to talk specifically about Duel of the Fates, and recently Dave Filoni, who's done a lot of work with George Lucas, individually and on the Clone Wars animated series, and all the way up to all the modern day stuff. He's talked about the point of Duel of the Fates, why it's called Duel of the Fates. Are you familiar with this particular
No.
theory? So basically,
But I love it when the chorus kicks in.
Oh.
Like,
that's a good bit.
yeah, it's a good bit.
That's a good bit.
In fact, I think the whole thing's a series of good bits put together.
So
Yeah, I know music theory.
So that whole sequence, I feel like I've been too excited in this. I need to bring it down.
You
all right?
don't feel what you're feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm just going to give you a stern look. This has just been me giving him a stern look.
well, that's these movies, isn't it? Just stern looks all
Yeah,
around.
yeah. It's stern looks and posh voices. And I know it's meant to be like a beautiful gilded age, and everything was fine and perfect.
Everything's
back
been
then.
shined.
But everybody's weird and British and posh. They don't have to be.
Nah.
What's this accent, Natalie Portman?
I will not condone a course of action that will lead us to war.
I don't like it.
You need a guy, people have said this, but you need Han Solo to just go,
Yeah.
what's this?
You don't.
What's that?
Exactly.
Who are you?
You don't need.
I hate this.
But I wonder if they just. Obviously, we're not talking about the real Han Solo. He was too busy just being a regular Han or whatever.
True.
But you do need a guy. You need a guy who's like, bro, you seeing this, bro? It's crazy, bro.
I hate this.
Right?
I'm tired.
God, stop being so posh and weird.
What are you saying to me right now?
Oh, but I wonder if they had put in a Han Solo-esque character, people would have been like, "Oh, this, okay,
Yeah.
it's been done, man." You know?
And you gotta nail it. You know.
And also, not everybody they get to do a Han Solo guy is going to have Harrison Ford's
Exactly.
charisma.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, God, this guy's annoying. Who would they have gotten?
Brendan Fraser.
I would have liked that a lot.
I mean, for that 99, you kidding me?
They wouldn't have got him though. They would
No.
have got just I don't know, Pauly Shore probably.
Sure. Why not? Okay, so anyway, Duel of the Fates. That whole sequence is about the fight for Anakin's soul, right? Because Obi-Wan Kenobi openly hates Anakin. When he first hears about him, he's like, what have you found? Who is this? And
A replacement for me, the coolest Padawan there is. Look at my little rat's tail.
Exactly. And he's like, he's going to kill us all, right? Like, he's going to murder us all. Also, the kid's standing right there. Like, he's literally right there when he's saying that. He's like, he's not right. He's not right. Why have you done this?
This kid sucks.
Yeah.
This kid right here, this kid sucks. You know you suck. Hey kid, you know you scum.
But with Qui-Gon losing that battle, that means that Anakin doesn't have somebody looking out for him.
That's true.
Obi-Wan only trains him because he has to.
Sure.
Because he's like, oh, all right, I'm not, oh God. He's not ready for it. He's doing it out of pure obligation. They don't like each other. We see that in the next movie.
That's true.
They're both resentful because their father figure is an idiot and got himself stabbed. Right? So that adds a whole nother dimension to that battle. That battle and that result kicks everything off.
Man.
If both of them had have died, Anakin probably wouldn't have been trained and nothing would have happened. That specific outcome ruined everything.
Man.
Yeah. Anyway, are you ready for the Phantom Men trivia?
Yes.
Or is it green trivia? Did we
Still
decide?
green trivia, yeah.
Okay,
We
it's green
decided
trivia.
last week it's green trivia.
Okay, terrific. Good.
The green of a beautiful lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. I also just quickly want to point out, look, we haven't covered everything.
No, I think we have.
No,
I'm pretty confident in saying we've covered everything.
but I know some people like want to hear specific things. They want to be like, Obi-Wan, he didn't have the high ground in this one. He cut up Darth Maul. Yoda, he's a gross little puppy. He looks weird in this one, and they CGI'd him. They fixed it. They fixed it later or whatever. Keira Knightley's in the movie. Yeah, why not?
Are we in green trivia yet?
No,
or-
this is just like.
Oh, this
things-
is a
I'm
precursor
just
to
like,
green trivia.
Hey,
Okay, right.
Like we're not going to cover everything. Here's
Okay,
some things.
I'm confident we're going to cover everything. For example, did you know that Yoda looked like a real freaky, weird puppet, and they fixed it? Did you know that?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
There's some ETs in the Senate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's fun, I
nice.
guess. Also, there's a Maz Kanata looking like statue in Anakin's room.
Whoa.
I don't know what that's about. So there's a little Greedo running around. You've seen him?
I did say Little Greedo.
It's a Rodian. It's not Greedo. There is a deleted scene with Greedo where he gets in a fist fight
And
with
he's
little
still-
Anakin.
he's little Greedo.
Yeah, and then they're like, don't fight people, Greedo. You'll get shot.
nice.
That's literally the same.
yeah.
Not that.
If only he'd lived that, he would have lived in real life.
I agree.
But there it is.
According to Jake Lloyd, there's a 6-hour cut of this film that was screened for several people before the film was released. And those
The
who saw-
verdict: too long.
No, they said mind-bogglingly good.
Wow, these days it would have been a 6-episode bloody Disney Plus show.
You're not wrong. I would love to see that, genuinely. I don't think you would.
Nope, I wouldn't. It's true.
Oh, here's something you might like,
I'd
though.
love to see a scene in the editor's room where he's given 6 hours of this, whoever it is. I don't know if it's, and he's just like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Shave off how much? My God. But it'll ruin the oh yeah, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Here's 2 bits of trivia for Mason.
Are we in trivia? We're in green
We're still in green trivia. This is all green trivia.
Okay, this is green trivia now. Okay, great.
Designer Tricia Bigger and her team created 1,000 costumes for this movie.
I bet. Makes
Like,
sense, yeah.
inspired by various cultures.
Yeah.
Second bit of trivia. It's more of a personal opinion, just for you. I think Watto's butt is filled with helium. Those wings are not supporting whatever he is.
Physiologically, it's like a bee.
I think he's a balloon.
He's a little balloon
I
man.
think he's a balloon. Yeah,
Okay.
he's a balloon.
Right,
man.
so it's a balloon in his butt that makes him float, but I guess the wings are for
movement.
For movement, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, sure.
It's like the turtle blimp. Did you ever see the turtle blimp as a
I
kid?
saw the turtle blimp.
turtle blimp.
Is there a turtle blimp? I've seen a turtle blimp or two in my time. James, let me tell you this. I had the bloody
I
turtle
know you
blimp.
had the turtle blimp. I
had the turtle
don't
blimp.
understand why you've never let me see it. See it.
I don't know where it is.
I want it.
It's in a dump. I bet it's in a dump with bloody Darth Maul and his bloody brother. You seem real Darth Maul's brother jealous about me having a turtle blimp.
I am. Michael Jackson campaigned for the role of Jar Jar Binks. Ahmed Best has talked about meeting him backstage
Wow.
at a concert, and George Lucas decided against casting him because his star status would compromise the film. Absolutely, that's a very good decision. Warwick Davis.
He's in this for he's in Jabba's. He's one of Jabba's mates.
Well, he's in it a few times. There's a scene where Yoda is walking. I think it's where he's coming off the ship. That's Warwick Davis in the Yoda costume. There's also a CGI Yoda later. They're testing it for the later movies. But also his character that's near Jabba or whatever. That character Weasel also appears in Solo. So he becomes a resistance fighter later on.
my goodness.
That's fun. Joseph Fiennes was a finalist for the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Is he related to Rafe Fiennes?
Yes, they might be brothers.
Terrific.
And one of them's in Enemy at the Gates and Shakespeare in Love. It's that guy.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, George Lucas's daughter reportedly expressed her dislike for him, which cost him the role.
Ouch.
That stings, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Just a kid's like, nah, you're out. Sorry, mate.
This guy's yuck.
Yeah. Anyways, the budget of this movie, it was initially supposed to be $50 million, and they were going to shoot all 3 back to back, starting in 1997, then 99 and 2001. It obviously blew out. This ended up costing $115 million, but it made $924 million just in 1999.
That's a lot.
I agree.
Especially in $1999.
Yeah, but I think there was some disappointment that
How many CD singles could he have bought for that?
Oh, so many. Oh yeah, the Qui-Gon, his death was spoiled in the thing. There's a thing we haven't talked about.
Oh, it was
There's a
spoiled
thing.
in the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's right. Qui-Gon gets stabbed, whatever it's called. Yeah. I think it was a little bit disappointing to some because they were thinking Titanic numbers.
Oh, I see.
The previous
right.
biggest movie to Titanic, I think, was still Star Wars, or was definitely still up there. And so it's Star Wars will take it back. But I think initially it did very well, and then kind of word of mouth, and people are like, I don't know if I like
Guy
this
and you
as much.
saw it 10 times opening weekend.
I don't understand how that man is just. What is he doing?
I don't know.
What is his brain? Let me see it. It's not right. He just got a
Correct.
nail in it. Is all I'm saying. But then it was re-released in 3D in 2012 and it made another 102 million. So there you go.
Good for
It's
them.
definitely made its money back and in merch and the like. Speaking of, I'm actually working on a video, or it's out now, I don't know. It's a lot of research on the marketing campaign for this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Like it is next level.
Wow, and
Yeah.
and as a piece of a stunt video, you said you're gonna unearth one of those Jar Jar lollipops and French kisses.
I am doing something similar for
Oh,
the video,
no.
not to spoil it.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways, this has been The Phantom Menace, and this is really long.
Yeah, hell yeah.
No, Ben, I'm sorry. Lawrence, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
And as a couple of George Lucases here, you cannot take anything else. Just kidding. Please trim it.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where, yes, we are making our way through the Star Wars prequels.
We could just say the prequels and people would know what we're talking about, right? Is there a more famous set of prequels, do you think?
The Hobbit prequels.
No.
The Harry Potter prequels.
No.
That Indiana Jones movie that's a prequel.
Is it? What? Which one?
Temple of Doom.
Oh, yeah.
And also Young Indiana Jones Chronicles,
Oh
Mason.
my god, I forgot about edutainment. I completely forgot about edutainment.
Well, we're not being edutainment this week, are we,
No,
Mason?
that's very true.
Leave a like because, of course, we are talking about Attack of the Clones from 2002.
Let me ask you this, James.
I love questions, I love answers.
When this movie came out, people were like, excuse me, Attack of the Clones? That's a dumb name.
I just heard the new Star Wars film's called Attack of the Clones. No. It is.
Is it?
I mean, they're all kind of dumb,
In
aren't
the,
they?
in the context of all the other ones, Attack of the Clones is not dumber than The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's just people had more time to adjust to the name The Empire Strikes
Exactly.
Back, I think.
And it's like pulpy and 1950s-y and Flash Gordon-y.
Exactly.
But in keeping with that kind of 1950s like aesthetic and jumping into an adventure, it feels like a couple of movies happened between this movie and the last in the opening crawl.
Yes.
It's like several thousand solar systems want to leave the Republic. Count Dooku is leading the Separatists, and it's like, what? What happened? What?
Count Dooku.
I
He's
know it-
leading the Separatists.
And I know it's been 10 years, but it's a little like catch up. And then it leaves a lot
Yeah.
of things up in the air and then just doesn't really answer them in movies, I should specify.
yeah, it is a little jarring.
So this time around, George Lucas didn't hand in the shooting script until 3 days before. So the creation of worlds and characters and ships and all this behind the scenes work and previs and creating digital characters and environments. And also there's still a bunch of model work in this. I want
Yeah.
to talk about that in a second. So they were making all of these things. They were making them before they started filming, not knowing how long each of them would be on screen. So it's like, how much time and effort
Right.
and detail do you dedicate to a character that might be a background character?
Yeah, do we develop an entire city planet with every like district and every shopping strip and so on and so
Absolutely, yeah.
forth, not knowing if Obi-Wan and Anakin are going to visit the shopping strip and do one of those scenes where they have a bunch of bags in their hands and they spin around, you know?
That's it.
Imagine if you designed all those shopping bags
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all the different Star Wars universe boutiques, and then they didn't. Then Lucas is like, we're not going to do the scene where they spin around.
There's no time.
There's no time for your My Fair Lady nonsense. We're not going to give Anakin a little glow up.
He already looks great.
He looks great.
He comes in at 100%.
I'm sure people have pointed this out. He is in the could fall to the dark side or remain in the light side outfit.
Oh, absolutely.
Because famously, of course, the good guys always wear like a light color of beige, and the bad guys are in black. But he's in a fetching black
What's
and
he up
brown.
to? Where do you even get that? I'm pretty sure that's not regulation.
He had to go to a Jedi tailor and a Sith tailor, and then he got half each, and then he stitched them together at home.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though this is a very digital movie, do you remember when a lot of movies just look like Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, by the way?
Yes, I do. That movie was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, but not script-wise.
No, also it looked like it was filmed in a cupboard, you know?
Sure did,
But
yes.
still, yeah, I agree.
James, a
groundbreaking.
cupboard, but also there's a fire happening in the building and all your smoke detectors are going off. It's just very foggy.
Yeah, that's
very
true.
foggy in there.
That being said, there is a bunch of model work in this.
Okay.
Like the Geonosis Arena, all of the buildings are mostly miniatures. A lot of interiors, like inside of the Camino facility, they built and then filmed for real. And the reason is it was quicker to do that than to create digital backgrounds at this point.
Interesting.
So a lot of the time they're just making the actors fit there to scale.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Dexter Jettster's Diner.
Yes.
Real or?
Real.
Whoa.
Very real,
So we
Mason.
could visit it.
Well, we could definitely visit it because it was filmed in Australia. Jay Lagaya, Rose Byrne,
Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson, the first nude male centerfold in Clio magazine, 1972.
Joel Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton. Susie Porter is in the diner in the
Oh.
background. Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of that going on here. Boy, it really takes you out of a movie when you go, isn't that the guy who with the death stick? See, did I see him in the TV show Spellbinder or something?
James, let me tell you this. If I existed a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away and I was offered a product called Death Sticks in a nightclub, I simply would not purchase and consume them. Furthermore, James, if I were a changeling and I were being pursued by...
what would you change a ling into?
Anything else, I simply would not stay looking exactly the same.
Well, maybe
And slip away.
Well, the thing is about those changelings, and we know this from the comics later on, more recently, they can change into anything. So I'd change into like a broom or a hat stand or something.
I'd change into a death stick dealer.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan would be like, simply go away. I'd be like, nailed it.
I will go away.
I will go away, thank you.
Yeah. So this was one of the first blockbusters. Oh, it's actually,
One of the first blockbusters?
well, in a way, Mason. There were movies shot on digital before, but this was easily the biggest to do so. And in doing so, they had to get custom cameras built from Sony and lenses from a different company. And there are a couple of advantages to this. For one,
And you
there's-
know Sony and a different company
oh
don't
my
get along.
God, yeah.
You know?
Have you ever tried to get a charger for your PS Vita? Forget about it.
From different company, they'll never do it.
But there's a few advantages to that. One being there's no film processing.
Okay.
So you can basically take what you've shot in the day. It's already synced up, the audio and the video, and you can just look at it on the spot.
Okay.
You know, it's ready to go. But the disadvantage is those cameras, because they were the first of their kind, enormous. The size of a bus. Really unwieldy.
Well, guess what? Not my problem. They're not bringing them into the cinema, are they?
Oh, that's true.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if you all have bad backs after this. You know what I liked about this movie is, in contrast to maybe perhaps modern blockbusters that are being filmed on digital, is actually like crisp color and
Yeah.
just very vibrant, as opposed to
Yeah.
like your modern blockbuster where it's just like
Put a grain on it.
put a grain on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you say that, and Star Wars has actually gone back to film since then.
Mm-hmm.
But because these were the early cameras, there had to be a lot of color adjustment work to make it look like this. Because they get the image back, and it's like, this looks like shit. Like,
Sure,
they had
yeah.
to tweak it a lot to
Uh-huh.
make it look like this. And at the time, I did not like the aesthetic, and there's still a lot of this that I feel doesn't hold up as much as like the Phantom Menace. But it does, now that it's like 20 years on, there is like a nostalgic kind of feel
Right,
to this,
sure,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I mean, this has always been one of my least favorite Star Wars movies.
Even more so than Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Whoa.
But I think I've come around on a lot of it.
Okay.
And I don't know whether like a lot of that is nostalgia also. But you know, the idea of Obi-Wan goes on a little detective adventure.
Oh, yes.
That's fun. He's
Yeah.
running about the galaxy.
You know what I liked, and I appreciate it, and I think you maybe mentioned it in brief last week. I enjoyed the idea of seeing the Jedi in their prime. You know, there's a lot of fun to be had in just the idea of them, but like leaping off a speeder and falling hundreds of stories.
Yeah.
Because they got the skills. They got the skills, and they know they got the skills. They're
Some-
gonna land on something.
Some of them have the skills.
Some of them have some skills.
just get shot.
Okay, that is also true.
Yeah.
And also, I understand that this is we're witnessing the decline of the
Yeah,
Jedi
there's a lot of
Order in this.
hubris. Like the
Oh
librarian.
my god, everybody is so smug and so wrong.
Yeah, the librarian's like, nah, if it's not in the library, it doesn't exist. That's a great character who they've fleshed out in the comics since,
Oh.
Joe Castor But yeah, the idea of just
Jedi
like...
librarian.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it seems as if there's some kind of gravity well, like a planet could be in this blank spot on the map.
Probably a mistake. Probably simply a shadow.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's not investigate it further. There's a line where they're like, oh, what's going to happen in the future? And Yoda's like, the dark side clouds everything. And I'm like, oh, boo-hoo. You can't use your magic. Might have to rely on some actual intuition. Oh, sorry. Sorry you haven't exercised that in 500 years, Yoda.
No, you're right, though. And you see them falling apart. They're not used to this kind of action. You know, in the arena, 200 show up, but maybe 20 get out. You
yeah.
know, they're just not equipped for this kind of, you know, situation. And speaking of Yoda, how do you feel about the digital Yoda this time around?
Didn't hate it.
We have a video before where I've talked about, like, why did they do this? Because they went out of their way to make it look like a puppet and add all the imperfections. But there is something about it that, yeah, there are certain things you can do. And I'm not just talking about the flipping and the spinning.
Sure.
Which, you know, it can...
Oh, I forgot about the flipping
Yeah.
and the spinning. We'll get to that a
We'll
little
get to
later.
that. But, you know, it can emote in a way, but also the way that they went back to that for The Last Jedi, that's the way they really should be doing it. It's definitely an admirable attempt, and it works, I think, in this movie. But if you put that in a movie now, it doesn't. I don't think it'd translate.
Couldn't do it these days.
No, not with cancel culture, Mason. Not with cancel culture. Lightsabers don't mean anything, do they?
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like they're supposed to be a significant device, like an iconic thing in a Jedi's life, and they build it and it has a lot of significance to them.
Yeah.
But in this movie, they're just like, hey, Obi-Wan and Anakin need some help. Chuck them some lightsabers.
Yeah, and there's even a scene where Obi-Wan's like, this is really important, don't lose this, and they both lose them, you know?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. But yeah, I think that also takes away from the idea of this Skywalker legacy lightsaber. It's like, that lightsaber he had for like 2 years before he fell into the fire. People talk about how it's Anakin's lightsaber and it's an important lightsaber. The most important thing that lightsaber's done is kill a bunch of kids, really.
Very
That's
true,
the
yeah.
legacy of that lightsaber.
But that's nostalgia, you know?
Yeah, it is.
You know?
You know what I think is interesting about this movie? I think there is a lot of it that is in reaction to the reception of the previous movie.
Okay.
And where that stands out the most is Jar Jar. The role is greatly reduced. George Lucas gives him this is the guy who gave all the power to the Emperor scene.
Okay, sure,
which
yeah.
which was like, you hate this guy, do you? Well, now you're going to really hate him.
Sure.
But I do wonder how much of his character being pulled back was to do with the reception and how much was to do with merch sales.
Oh, like people
know?
didn't like those lollipops.
Those
Jar Jar
lollipops.
tongue lollipops.
But you know what I mean? Did they end up with like just landfills filled with these with
Maybe
this character?
just piling them on top of the ET cartridges.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, yeah. How do you feel about the Star Wars fan theory that in fact Jar Jar Binks was a dark Jedi who deliberately brought about the end of the Republic?
Who cares is my answer to that, I guess.
Great point, James. Terrific point.
And also, George Lucas was going to make him speak regular English in this. To just be like, he can speak English, but he didn't in the last movie.
Oh, he got a My Fair Lady glow up.
That's right, exactly.
Terrific.
So, the worst bounty hunter in the world has an assassination attempt.
Okay, so Dooku
Yep.
wants to assassinate Padme.
Yes.
So he hires Jango Fett.
Yes.
Who outsources his assassination
Yep.
to the changeling person.
Who outsources it to a
droid.
droid.
To a droid who outsources it to a couple of poison worms, I guess. Millipede things.
Yeah.
And then they've clearly been told, okay, if this assassination attempt fails, just go back to home base. Really lead the Jedi at a merry chase back to me personally. That's what I want. And then Jango's just hanging out, ready to assassinate that lady.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have left.
I would have also left. Yeah, the idea that she's anywhere near any of that. I mean, you send off the droid with the worms in it.
Then
and
you
go anywhere.
a different diner.
Go to a Star Wars bar.
Yeah.
A different Star Wars bar.
Go to Galaxy's Edge.
I'm loving seeing a Star Wars bar, by the way, let me just say. Did you notice the bit where Obi-Wan cut off a hand, like in the other Obi-Wan movie?
Yes, I did notice that, yes.
It's good to notice things
It
and
is,
then
isn't
bring
it?
it up, because then otherwise people will say we didn't bring it up.
Well, we brought it up because we noticed it. What do you
That's
think
right,
about that?
yeah. But that whole chase sequence, like, it's kind of cool, but there's also an element of, so Anakin's just invincible till he isn't? I mean, you mentioned the fall from great height. There's a moment later on the conveyor belt where he just gets his arm completely pressed in a sheet of metal, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But then at the end, he loses the fight or whatever.
That's foreshadowing, James.
I guess it is foreshadowing. There's a moment where Obi-Wan's like, what have I told you about power couplings? Speaking of bloody power couplings, we'll bloody get to it, Mason. What, don't go through the power couplings. But, like, nothing happens. They just cruise out the other side. The ship doesn't,
You couldn't go over it, couldn't go around it.
We didn't, like, see them get electrocuted and we saw their skeletons on the inside.
That's true, yeah.
I wanted to see that. I wanted to see all of that, Mason.
I wanted them to just be reduced to Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru burnt, charred corpses, and just the speeder slides to a halt, and then there's just an awkward funeral, and that's the rest of the movie. Speaking of,
Yeah.
when Mace Windu kills Jango Fett,
Yeah.
I recall that his head falls out of the helmet, but obviously that doesn't happen.
Well, it does fall out of the helmet when the shadow of the helmet, like, flies off. The shadow of the head moves across the ground.
Okay, right.
But apparently they were thinking of doing that at one point, like putting the head in. But no, it's not a thing.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, we'd all love to see it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Let's talk about Jango though.
Okay.
Well, first of all, they get to him through Dexter Jettster, who I, for the first time I noticed, has a mustache. Like, because there's so much going on in that room and
Yeah.
on him, and I just never realized he had a mustache.
Yeah. Which I feel is period incorrect. I think he probably should have had sideburns.
I agree.
As opposed to a mustache.
I completely agree.
Or sideburns that connect to a mustache.
Yes, you're right. Like Wilford Brimley style.
Wilford Brimley, yes.
Yeah. So just quickly though, Obi-Wan orders a cup of Jawa juice.
Okay.
This beverage originated on Tatooine and it's made from bantha hide mashed with fermented grains. Sounds awful. Anyways.
And a bit boozy. Obi-Wan, you getting your buzz on before you do some investigating?
Let's talk about Buzz just quickly.
Okay.
Because one of the theories behind who tried to kill Queen Amidala, Senator Amidala, whatever.
She's always a queen to me.
Thank you. When she was 14, elected queen, by the way. What the fuck system is that?
Well, we don't know how ages work in this universe.
That's
Again,
true.
They might all be, from our perspective, they might all be 1,000 years old and 1,000 feet tall. So
You're right. You're absolutely right. So one of the theories that I think Mace Windu floats is disgruntled spice miners of the moons of Naboo tried to kill her, right? So I looked into this. First of all, I'm confused because, like, spice is illegal, right? It's an illegal, illicit substance.
it's so vague and illegal. I love it.
And expensive. Do you remember?
Very expensive.
remember-
Vaguely expensive.
So some miners on the moons of Naboo, I looked into this, repeatedly went on strike for larger shares of the profits. Some splinter groups committed minor political violence, such as breaking windows and security shields, even burning an empty warehouse on Naboo itself. I love how they did that and they went, yeah, these guys are capable of murder, I reckon. Are they clearly just trying to form a union? And the Jedi, the cops, are just like, nah, these guys are all murderers. Why are they allowed to...
Unlike us, we've never murdered anybody.
Is this a legal or illegal operation also?
Great
Because they
question,
all
isn't it?
are getting paid, but not enough. And it's all off Naboo, which is apparently... Is that a criminal planet? What's happening? It's politics, Mason. I love it.
Same.
Anyway, Jango Fett, right? He's the one who does it. And he's like, I want a boy. I want a boy who not only looks just like me, he is me. Down to his genetic code. Very odd.
I don't want him to be genetically modified so he grows up really fast. I want to just raise a kid the slow way, and it's really frustrating. And I'm tired all the time. Sure, I could have him be my son and also a 30-year-old man, but I refuse. What a rotten little kid.
Well, it's Boba Fett.
I know, but I mean, it's just Django's like, nah, we're gonna pursue this guy through the asteroid field. We're gonna kill him, and Boba Fett's like, yeah, yuck, little kid. No wonder he went bad.
I'm a big fan. Well, he did. Then he came good, didn't he?
I guess.
Did you remember he became good?
He inexplicably became good, and he was
became-
always good.
He became a sheriff or something.
Yes.
Yeah. I do, speaking of things I like from this movie, I really love that fight in the rain with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's like slightly different. They're just slipping about and headbutting each other. There's a big karate kick in
Oh,
it.
big flying kick.
Yeah. There's a moment where Jango...
That's a risky kick to take.
In the wet?
In the wet, sure, that's right.
Yeah, in a big cloak?
Oh, you'll blow your ankle, you'll hit your hip, you'll land on your hip. My goodness.
Also, there's a moment where Jango does a horizontal climb across a pillar. And seeing that now, I'm like, that's crazy. The amount of strength you take to do that and then fire a rocket off your back, holding onto this slippery, wet pillar. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible upper body and core strength, Mason.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyways, Obi-Wan should have used like all of his Jedi powers in that.
Nah.
Why are you going hand to hand?
Good question.
Just throw him off the cliff.
Crush his heart.
Crush his heart. Yeah.
Maybe what's the metal called? Maybe the Beskar prevents
got
heart
gaps.
crushing.
It's got gaps.
Yeah, it's got gaps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
So-
bloody Obi-Wan's got some gaps in his bloody Jedi power knowledge.
Oh,
I'll
you're
tell
not
you that
wrong,
much.
mate. I mean, look, I love Ewan McGregor in these movies, but the worst detective. Maybe he's the best detective.
Yeah.
Maybe in this galaxy, this is what a good detective looks like.
Yeah.
Just not figuring things out. He's given the runaround. Children are telling him what to do.
I mean, that being said, a real chameleon. Because,
Yeah.
he shows up at Camino and they're like, you must be the Jedi who hired us. And he's like, yeah, man. I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's my name. And if that's a clue that perhaps I'm not the Jedi that hired you, I don't know what to do. But I can't lie. I can't say I'm not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That whole sequence is bizarre because they're like, so you want to see the clones? And he's like, yes. I do, actually. Good thing these creatures can't read faces, I think. I don't know what's going on here. But he's just throwing out just wrong information. He's like, they're like, Cypher Diaz came here and did it. And he's like, Cypher Diaz is dead. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, don't say that. Just go, interesting. What else do you know? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing, mate?
Spill the tea, please. Spill the Jawa tea.
So when this is a fun thing. You know how George Lucas loves to change things after the
That
fact?
is a fun thing.
Yeah. So apparently in the original cinematic cut of this, Jango Fett doesn't try to ignite his backpack to escape, but then for the DVD he does.
Oh.
So there's a moment where he's like, I'm going to use my jetpack to get away from Mace Windu. He fires it up, it doesn't work, and he just gets
Oh, interesting.
he just
Okay.
gets wiped out.
Okay, all right.
And here's something that people might be interested in. There's a great Star Wars channel called Bombastic, and he actually got someone to go back and to complete that whole sequence of Jango Fett being killed, because Mace Windu actually runs in and like carves him up before he beheads him.
Oh.
Like he takes off an arm, he like slashes him. It's like a horrible murder. It's not just a clean beheading.
Okay.
Like he really takes his time on it.
When is this, though? What?
Just before he beheads him.
Oh, but that's not in the movie.
No, it's not. But you can
Okay.
see it. It's here now. Thank you, Bombastic Clips. Please
Oh, this is
subscribe.
just a fun imagining of a man being dismembered.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It's really weird
Go on.
that they paired Anakin and Padme together. And I think they might have just done it because they had to be together. Do you get that
Sure.
sense?
I do.
And also they're like, you'll be safe on Naboo. Oh, how are we going to get them there? I know, we'll get the head of the Naboo guard and we'll get a guy in Jedi robes to drop them both at the bus station. Nobody will see this, right? Incredible. And also, Anakin's got the Jedi haircut. You know what I mean?
It's true. I would have sent one of the horse-faced Jedis, quite frankly.
Yeah. And the thing with Anakin is,
Go
he's
on.
got very obvious mental health problems.
I agree.
Right? And the idea that if you're not feeling great in this universe as a Jedi, they send you to Yoda, I guess, and he goes, you seem a bit angry. You're not angry. We don't do that.
Yeah. If you could just
Are there no other systems in place here?
pipe down. Just pack it down in your soul.
It shouldn't come out again if you pack it down
Yeah.
tight enough.
Why don't you go visit your mum?
Well, that's the thing. So, what happened to Shmi Skywalker in this movie? How did we get here? I did some research, right?
I love how Anakin shows up to Watto and he's like, "Where's my mother?" And he's like, "Oh, I sold her." And he's like, "You sold her?" That's he's already a slave owner.
You
What
know
do
him.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario,
Right?
really, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, a few years before the Clone Wars, Owen Lars, or the Larses, took a trip to the spaceport settlement of Mos Espa, where they met Shmi Skywalker, who was owned by Watto. There's no other information, or they didn't used to be. It was just Lars fell in love with Shmi and bought her from Watto, thus freeing her from slavery. And the two married and lived together as husband and wife.
Okay.
If you look at that scenario just on the surface, that's terrible. Falling in love and being like, we're in love, and now I'm going to
Purchase you.
purchase you. But that was
It's like those stories your grandparents are like, "Yeah, and I asked her out every day for 5 years, and eventually she said yes, and then the week after we were married." Sounds like a hostage situation.
That's actually terrible. That was actually recently retconned, not your grandparents, that was real. That Aunt Beru, famous Star Wars character who does nothing, created a plot to free her from Watto in a rigged gambling game.
Oh.
She went, we're going to fucking Qui-Gon Jinn this shit. This guy
Sure.
is a moron. We can pull this off. And also apparently Padme sent her best handmaiden to free the slaves a few years after the Phantom Menace. 4 years, by the way. That's a long time.
Sure
and
is.
she'd already been freed by that point. So nobody really had any idea where this woman was outside of the few people on Tatooine who knew her. Even Watto's like, I don't know. Sold her, I guess. Guess what the Jedi did in that time?
Nothing?
That's correct, Mason.
Oh.
Absolutely nothing. If Book of Boba Fett has taught us anything, what she should have done was gone out to the desert with the Tusken Raiders and fought a big sand Goro.
That's
And
right.
won their respect.
Yes.
By fighting the big sand Goro.
That's right, they're full of honor.
And then Anakin could have done the big force healing on her, which is a Star Wars thing, and then she would have been fine. But no, she dies. I do love that twin sun shot where he's on the speeder and he goes across Tatooine. That's great.
Is it the best speeder shot in this movie, or is the best speeder shot in this movie a very puzzled Christopher Lee who's been comped in quite badly? And he's just like, ooh.
Where am I?
Yeah.
What am I looking at? Doesn't matter. Look anywhere. It's fine. We'll put it all in.
Yeah, we'll fix your eye line. We'll give you crossed eyes. You could be looking at anything.
Speaking of Christopher Lee, though, apparently, I think this is still canon. He paid the Tusken Raiders to...
Count Dooku did, not Christopher Lee.
That's right. To kidnap Shmi Skywalker to set off Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
And that was then going to be revealed in that Revenge of the Sith battle. And that's what kind of leads Anakin to kill him.
Ah.
So I think that would have been like an interesting wrinkle to all of that. But no, they didn't do any of that, I guess. Anyways, what a love story. And what I'm talking about Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah, sure.
They bicker and belittle each other, and then like the next scene is like, "Oh, don't say that. You're like a father to me," or whatever. Right there. What an odd pairing. But I respect that neither of them want that scenario.
Okay,
like it's
sure.
not ideal for either of them. Obi-Wan wasn't supposed to have like an apprentice straight away.
That's true.
Anakin was supposed to be with Qui-Gon. They're just making the best of a bad situation. They don't like each other.
Great.
And that's okay. And look, I also understand he's odd, right?
Which one?
Anakin more so,
Uh-huh.
because he's a monk. So he meets a woman who he's been thinking about for the previous, 10 years, and he's like, "You've grown too, more beautiful, I mean." Don't do that.
Right?
There's a moment where she's like, "Don't look at me like that, it makes me feel uncomfortable." You should listen.
That's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
And then he has a big sook.
Yeah, he has that's in the script. And then Anakin has a big sook.
They meet again for the first time in 10 years, and then immediately he's like, "Oh, and Obi-Wan doesn't respect me." And dial it back, dude. This is not going to work.
Just be like, "I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time."
I'm living my best life.
Yeah, exactly. So apparently, though, as he's having that big whinge you're talking about, one of Padme's handmaidens is supposed to be like quietly laughing off to the side, which I think would have been effective to just cut to somebody just shaking the head, being like, "This fucking guy." It's like, what are you doing? And then the scene, and this has been talked to death. This is not new ground, but just that tantrum of like, "I'm going to stop people from dying. By the way, I killed a bunch of like women and children." And just to be like, "That's okay. That's not okay. That's very uncool."
I think it's very cool.
Oh, you're right. But that's the moment where you go like, "Oh, this is a crazy person."
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
But again, they have to get together for the
Yeah.
the Luke Skywalker Princess Leia situation.
I loved the part where he goes to the Tusken Raider encampment. It's at nighttime, and he just cuts one of the tents over with a lightsaber. You have a little something, little.
You could probably just tear that with your hands.
little Swiss Army knife or something. He's learned from the best, is all I'm saying.
By the way, Hayden Christensen, I like him, genuinely. This is what he's supposed to do, and he's doing it, and I'm glad he's back. And I think he's even better in the next movie, and I think he's also good in other movies also. But the line where he says, "I wish I could wish away my feelings, but I can't."
That's nice.
Like, God, I know people talk about the sand and whatever, but that to me, it's just like, you don't want to give that another pass. I wish I could wish away my feelings.
No, James, that's perfect. That's like a tone poem.
I guess it is like a tone poem. Look, dialogue aside, the worst crime of this sequence of, them falling in love is, I just don't believe it.
Yep.
Like you said, there's too many red flags.
Yeah, Padme is always laughing, like in that uncomfortable way.
Yeah.
Well, where you can tell she's trying to find an exit at every moment.
Like at the moment where it's like, politicians, you know what they should do? They should sit down and talk about what's best for people, and then they should do it. And she's like, "Yeah, that's what it tries to be." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, then
I've been a professional politician for over a decade
since
now.
I was 14."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Well, if people don't agree, then maybe someone should kill them. Not me, but somebody." And she's like, "What?" And that's before he's bad. Just to be like, there should be a man who makes everybody do the right thing.
That's right. And that man's name is Santa Claus. That's right. He's canonical in the Star Wars universe.
I wish he was. Obi-Wan's back wearing his little wig and his reshoots. It's a different wig, but you'll notice. There's a bit in the elevator at the start. I think they were like, we need to have some scenes with these guys where they're not screaming at each other.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Bit of camaraderie building in a lift.
Exactly. But one of my favorite moments in this movie, genuinely, is the moment where they're going to catch Count Dooku, right? And they're on the gunship.
Because he won't get away this time.
He won't get away this
Dooku.
time. Yeah, but he does.
He does, it's true.
And they're on the ship together. And Padme falls out of the ship. And Anakin's like, "Put the ship down! Put it down!" And Obi-Wan's just like, "No! Like, I've entertained like every insane thing that you've said, but this is the line. Absolutely not.
You are in timeout, Anakin.
Yeah. I will expel you from the Jedi Order, or someone will. Listen, stop." Like, it's just, I like that moment of just like, no, I will not stand for this anymore. Enough of your bullshit.
As a parent, you've got to respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Obi-Wan also has the best joke in this movie where Anakin, turns up to rescue him with Padme. And he's like, "We're here to rescue you." And he's like, "Good job." And that's a great joke.
It is a great joke.
Yeah.
Maybe another pass in the delivery. That's
Sure,
all right.
maybe.
Yeah.
This also has the worst, I have a bad feeling.
These days they would have been like, "Well, your rescue was cringe." Very cringe.
It did not make me lol.
That's
This movie, I feel, also has the worst use of the "I've got a bad feeling about this." It's where they're all chained up. and the monsters are coming to eat them. And Anakin's like, I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh, yeah?
Perfect perception. Well
That's
done.
right, yes.
You've
He can
assessed the
see
situation.
things before they happen. Also, just logistically, how does that normally go? Like,
They just come out and like mash them into the pole.
like there's 3 political prisoners,
Yep.
and then like tens of thousands of spectators arrive,
Yep.
and then they bring out 3 invulnerable giant monsters who just paste these people, and then what? Everybody goes home?
Yeah, everyone goes home.
Pretty short, generally, I would imagine, that whole spectacle.
That's a weird termite community. Who knows what they like or
That's
don't
a
like?
good point. Maybe they only live for a couple of days. So
Yeah.
make these executions efficient.
But you're right. I mean, I do like those creatures though. I think they're all really cool and unique designs. And Obi-Wan has to fight a big crab.
Yeah.
And he's just not loving it. You know.
That's true.
He's having a bad time. I think that's great.
I'm just imagining like episode 4 or whatever, and Luke Skywalker's like not respecting him and not believing in him or whatever, and then he's flashing back. He's like, I fought a giant crab monster. You wouldn't believe what I've done.
I didn't have a lightsaber for a lot of it. I had to do so many rolls to get out of the way.
Right.
It's like a Dark Souls boss. Do we have that here? I don't know.
It's canonical, yeah.
It's canonical, yeah. Let's talk about Christopher Lee, though.
Okay.
I mean, I love the addition of him in these movies.
The absolute king of the Hammer horror movies, the B pictures.
My goodness.
Just he
Real life war hero.
Yeah.
Gentleman. Been in a bunch of bad stuff, but is never bad in it.
A real war hero, and not only that, the correct side.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, apparently just a class act.
Yeah.
All around. But I wish these prequels... First of all, I wish I could wish away my feelings, Mason.
Absolutely.
But I wish these prequels had a more consistent kind of B villain,
I
you know?
I personally wish for infinite wishes.
Yeah, sure, that's good too.
A more consistent villain, you're absolutely right, yeah.
I mean, I love Darth Maul, and I love Christopher Lee's Count Dooku, and I like Grievous, but I think maybe they should have just done the one. And maybe if the villain in the first one was Qui-Gon's master. And I think the reason that they did it this way also was very last minute, to add more of a connection between him and Obi-Wan and everybody else. Because it wasn't supposed to be Christopher Lee. They had a bunch of other designs, and then they got him and they went, okay, we'll run with this aspect
Let's
of it.
redesign the character so he looks like Christopher Lee.
That's right, yeah. And I think the idea that Obi-Wan and him have that conversation, and they both have that connection to Qui-Gon and Christopher Lee, it's better than saying Dooku. It's a bad name.
Sure is, yeah.
It's just like throwing that in his face. He's like, I trained your master and you knew him very well. Maybe we should team up. And Obi-Wan's like, you can see where he's like, is this bullshit? Is there
Yeah.
really a Sith person in the Senate? Like, is this real? Can I trust this guy?
And we don't know if we can trust this guy either, because we've never seen him before this. And maybe it would have been nice to have him in the previous movie.
Yeah, but I also think that's one of the strengths, though, to be like, which way is this guy going to go? You know, he was a Jedi. Is that good?
He was a Jedi, but on the other hand, he obviously looks evil. And he's wearing the evil outfit.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Exactly. Apparently, a lot of his backstory is, and you get a hint of it here, is that he doesn't really want to like bring about the destruction of the Jedi. He wants to set things right because of Qui-Gon being murdered and kind of level the playing field. But he also wants to destroy the Sith. So he's in it, but he's not in it for the same reasons as Palpatine. When he's like, we could do this together, Obi-Wan. I think that was like a genuine
interesting.
attempt.
Okay.
Or not. Maybe it's a retcon. I don't know.
Also, his name is Count.
Yes.
You ever met a good Count?
No. Chocular. Duckula. Was that enough? Sesame Street.
They're fictional, though. All three of those are
yeah,
fictional.
good point. No, real life bad.
That's just, PR from Big Count.
That's
I
right.
suspect. Big vague royalty that I don't understand.
How do you feel about
Bad.
Oh, okay.
Where are we going with this?
The end battle.
Oh, bad.
Yeah. Okay, so I do like that Anakin runs in and just gets rocked like immediately.
That's fun.
You know?
Yeah.
And he comes back in for another little fight and he's got 2 lightsabers, but clearly neither of them are a match for Christopher Lee's stunt double with Christopher Lee's face pasted over the top.
That's exactly right.
That's a good effect. Then, of course, we get Yoda. How do you feel about...
One of the worst things I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. It's not the battle so much the fight. It's the lead up to the fight.
Yeah.
Where they do some various force attacks on one another, and then Christopher
It's like
Lee...
a turn-based strategy.
Yeah, and then Christopher Lee utters the immortal line, seems our force powers are matched. We should... let's do a lightsaber fight. You don't need any of that.
Yeah.
Just do it silently.
Yeah.
You
Just
know?
some staring?
Just some staring, yeah.
Yeah, apparently that that was added because they thought it was a bit abrupt to have Yoda just run in off screen and just start.
Run in and behead him.
He probably could.
Just like a magpie, just whip in real fast. Cha!
Yeah, look, I never kind of loved the idea of Yoda with a lightsaber. John Knoll, who's worked on so many of these movies, and he's still with Lucasfilm in various roles. On this, he was the VFX supervisor. He argued with George Lucas that the final duel between Yoda and Dooku shouldn't involve lightsabers, since they were Force masters. Knoll envisioned the duel as a battle of wizards, pulling references from Akira. And I think that could have been interesting as well, to see that element of it.
Love those wizards in Akira.
Me too.
Yeah.
But as far as like making Yoda look believable, and the way that his cloak bellows, and the way that something like that would move and fight,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. I think
Yeah.
it could. I mean, it does look silly, but it could look sillier. You know.
Let me ask you this, James. Do you think it would look better if you had a full-size lightsaber?
Yeah, I don't know. Would it?
Why would he have a little lightsaber?
Because he's little.
Yeah, I know, but the blade should be the same length.
Yeah, and they don't weigh anything, do they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have the. I know, because the handle could still be short, right?
You know what he should have had?
Yeah.
Just his stick.
Yeah.
Force powers on the stick.
Hit him in the head with a stick.
Hit him with a stick. That's right.
Because he could.
Yeah.
I think it's an admirable effort. I never used to like it.
Okay.
I understand it. I understand why people like it.
You understand the moving pictures you
yeah.
presented before you?
No, but I get why you would want to see that.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh.
And I think the execution is pretty solid. Especially considering that it's like 20 years old now as well.
And I do appreciate at the end of the fight, Yoda, he shuts down his lightsaber and he just like, oh, jeez, I'm knackered now. Back to being old, I guess. God, really takes it out of you. I'm taking a half day. I'm going home. But he doesn't though, does he?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He's like, what? No, I'm sure what he did do is he's like, okay, I'm just going to get on this transport. Can you take me back to the Jedi Council? Oh, we're going to war, are we? Oh, great.
God.
This is terrific.
Can
Great.
you just
send me down here.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll walk.
get up some electrolytes?
Can I have some Jawa juice with electrolytes, please? That's the Star Wars equivalent of like a Four Loko. It's alcoholic and it's got caffeine in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, it's time for Green Trivia.
Back with green trivia.
You know it. Now, again, I just feel the need to mention, we haven't covered everything, because you can't.
No.
As long as these are, there are going to be things we miss.
For example, did you know
Yep.
that the original working title for Star Wars was Blue Harvest?
Is that true?
It's true.
Wow. Did you also know that the sound of the bomb going
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
is good?
It is good.
Yeah.
Is that your entire fact?
Yep. Did you know that this movie has like an amazing film score? Obviously.
Yeah.
Again, obviously. Did you know Mace Windu and he asked for the purple lightsaber, etc.?
I did know that.
So we've talked about those facts, and there are other facts which we are not going to cover.
Now, that's just because he wanted to stand out in the battle sequence.
That's right.
What happened to yellow lightsabers and orange lightsabers? Why are they just blue and green?
Ray has a yellow one or something.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
You know?
And in what's the
Video
one?
games.
In video games, that one, you can get an orange lightsaber.
It's true.
You know, what's his face? The guy.
Kyle Katarn?
No, the other guy.
Cal Kestis.
Orange lightsaber.
You're right. Temple guards have yellow lightsabers as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, let's do some green trivia.
Okay.
When that bounty hunter, the changeling, dies, she says, "We Shannet Slimo," which means in Huttese.
It means my one wish is I didn't have bonitis.
It means bounty hunter slime ball.
So
Because-
she says that of herself.
Yeah, because she gets poison darted. Even though in the
okay.
game Bounty Hunter, which we have covered for Caravan of Garbage, a lot of that game revolves around Jango Fett rescuing that character and
right.
carrying her off into the sunset at the end.
Also, you're a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
This is the
Me?
one. No.
I am not.
That's Changeling Lady.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I guess that is just like us going like, ugh, YouTubers. Ugh.
Gross.
We're not wrong.
Yuck. According to George Lucas, Obi-Wan hiding in Geonosis's asteroid field teaches young Boba Fett a lesson that he uses in his advantage during adulthood. Remember in Empire Strikes Back? He learnt that from Obi-Wan, even though he didn't see him do it. But I guess he just assumed that he did afterwards.
That's right.
That's great. No, I hate that, actually. At least they don't say it in the movie.
Oh man, he tricked us. I better keep an eye out on that. In the future, someone tries to hide behind some asteroid bits, better keep an eye out.
Oh, I'm really glad I learned that from my Jedi.
The Geonosian head design is based on the original concept of the Nemoidians developed for Episode 1. So they were going to be computer generated originally, and you'll notice that head design is also designed to look like the battle droids a bit. So seeing as the battle droids are created by these termite people, they've got a little bit of them in it.
Oh.
And also super battle droids, etc.
Do you think that's for sex purposes?
Yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
They'll live in the walls like creeps. Who knows?
That's how technology propagates, right? All the other battle droids that didn't look like they'd be good for sex purposes.
So, I don't know if you knew this, but NSYNC were pursued by both Lucas and Rick McCallum's daughters.
Okay.
Because...
Beatles style, just after a concert.
That's right. The band members were offered roles while on a short break from their Pop Odyssey tour.
Okay.
Remember that tour we followed around the country?
Yeah, I remember.
So Lance Bass and Justin Timberlake were too tired and probably too cool. But the rest of the band rushed to Industrial Light and Magic to film their parts as Jedi Knights. So for the arena sequence, they shot them all separately, and the idea was to kind of put them in the background and have NSYNC jumping about.
A Joey Fatone.
Yes.
The other two.
The other two less famous ones, even less famous than Joey Fatone. Yes.
They were there.
So it was theorized that they were cut due to backlash because word of this got out, or that because they were SAG members and they'd have to be paid, which they weren't, and were also happy to do it, but they just cut the entire thing.
Okay.
But you might be able to see them in the background of some shots, but who knows? And for this bit of green trivia, you can file this under, is this true?
Okay.
It was on IMDb, and I just...
Notoriously reliable.
It just seems... Anyway, the Geonosis Droid Factory action sequence was influenced by the 1998 video game Apocalypse. In the 8th level of the game, the main protagonist, Troy Kincaid, Bruce Willis... You remember this game, right?
Yes, now I do. Yeah, vaguely. Okay, sure.
He has to fight his way through the Warfighter Inc. factory in which robots are built and manufactured. Is that game good?
I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll never know. Let us know if you want us to cover it. Anyways, box office. This was the only Star Wars film up until that point that was not the top grossing film of the year.
Whoa.
In North America. It placed behind Spider-Man and Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That being said, it still did very well. On a $115 million budget, it made $653 million at the box office. Wasn't record-breaking by any stretch, and it wasn't critically super well received like the previous one, but it generated interest and obviously hype built for what was to come next, Mason.
Oh.
Which we'll be looking at, of course, in 2 weeks because these are way too long.
Very long.
And we're sorry, Ben.
Oh my God, it's so long already. You still have more words to say, probably.
I know. Well, I'm pretty much done. You got anything else to say?
Let me check my notes.
Yay!
I just have one note here that says, nice big smock, Anakin.
He does have a big smock,
Big
doesn't
smock.
Hello there.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where, yes, we are finally wrapping up the Star Wars Prequel trilogy. We've gone through games. We've gone through movies. Leave a like.
Sure, there it is.
Thank you.
We've gone through games and movies and the laborious process of begging people to leave us a like. And we'll do it. Big finish.
Huge finish, because, of course, today we are talking about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. A movie that most people consider to be the best of the prequels.
I certainly agree with that sentiment, yes.
Yeah, I think it's, in some ways it's better, but in some ways it kind of rushes a lot of stuff that we would have maybe liked to have seen over a few more movies.
Now, you're saying, of course, because, the original trilogy suggested, a certain amount of history between perhaps Obi-Wan and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And by the third movie, they were like, ooh, we haven't gotten to most of that yet, and we cannot leave that to the viewer's imagination. It simply will not do.
You got to see every
So we're
single
going to
second.
smash it all in there,
Yeah. You were waiting this whole time to be like, what's the mystery behind the clones and the Cypher Dyas fellow? You were asking me all week. You're like, ooh.
I still don't know who Cypher Dyas is.
You got to watch the Clone Wars. That's how that works.
Oh, is that where it is?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right. Was that a satisfying reveal for people who watch the Clone Wars?
Let us know. I haven't watched it. People below, tell us. Probably.
What did he look like? Just some dude? I'm guessing like a real pale dude.
Probably,
pale
yeah.
dude, big collar. What do you reckon? Bit of red?
Bit of red?
Bit of red, yeah.
I think you're thinking of a guy in this movie, Bruce Spence. Pale dude, big collar.
I am thinking of Bruce Spence. But as the helicopter guy in that Mad Max movie.
Yeah. Anyways, war!
This is the
opening crawl,
My
yeah.
favorite part of the opening crawl, there are heroes on both sides.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Name one.
Maybe they mean like hero in like the Greek mythology sense. Like a hero is like the child of a god. So
Okay.
maybe they just mean like There are powerful beings on both sides, I guess. Maybe that's what they mean.
Well, there's
Maybe they mean Grievous.
They might mean Grievous. Well, there's hints towards
General Grievous, the greatest hero of them all, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's hints towards, and you get it from the Trade Federation, and Natalie Portman like says it to Anakin at one point of like, can we just wind this down? Like, nobody really wants to do this war anymore. But beyond that...
No war anymore?
Yeah, beyond that, it's like, yeah, who is it? Who are you talking to? And I think that, yeah, the Clone Wars fleshes out more of the grey area of this conflict.
Maybe the revelation here is that the opening crawl writers are like both sides journalists. You know, there's a guy in his office, he's like, Palpatine's doing evil stuff, and these editors like, we can't say that. We can't. You gotta balance that out. So
Yeah.
If you could say there are heroes of both sides, that would be
please.
great, yeah.
If you could. That being said, I love the opening to this. I think it's some of the best stuff in the prequels.
I've written here, sure is a lot of Star War going on.
I agree.
I think this is the Star War they were talking about. This is a big opening action. I think
The one all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they've been hinting at. Just seeing those two Jedi starfighters flying in unison. Just two mates.
Yeah.
It's good to see two mates just being like, we're mates. And you believe a lot of it in this until they start screaming at each other.
Oh yeah, and the fire and the limb chopping.
And all
Yeah.
that.
But that's hours away.
Yeah, exactly. But it does feel like for a lot of these movies, and there are exceptions like Dexter Jetster, where nobody's really friends with anybody. They just happen to be in the same place at the same time, and they're just like, I think this, well, I think this, and then they...
Yes, it's just people
Just
talking
in a
at
big
one another.
void.
It's people waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can talk. But yeah, you're right, and it is a shame in a lot of ways that it feels like not only did they get the character dynamic right, I feel like the actors really kind of became in sync and became like, oh, this is a pairing or like a group of people that I really want to see maybe in more movies. But of course, everything works in threes, and they couldn't go, let's cap it off here, and they save the day, and then we'll do another trilogy, down the line.
Yeah.
We've got to chop those limbs.
Absolutely. So the reason, though, that some of the dialogue appears better in this film is because Francis Ford Coppola, who's a longtime friend of George Lucas, suggested Christopher Neal to be a dialogue coach on this movie. And you might be like, who is this Christopher Neal? It's his nephew. That's because that's how things work.
Okay, no, that is absolutely how it works.
Yeah. But I think he did make some big improvements to this. But, then there's moments like, that I also kind of enjoy, like new droids, like a buzz droid, you know what I mean? I mean, I would just use a bomb. If you can get a missile to explode near a ship.
Sure,
just
yes.
Just make it a big bomb, or make the little droids big bombs.
Uh-huh.
But, then you get a fun little action sequence.
I would simply manufacture bombs into the ships and sell them to the Jedi. And then when they come in for the big time assault, I'm like, joke's on you, bang.
I actually have a theory about that I want to talk about in a bit. Well, something similar at least. So, Dooku's back. Yes. Christopher Lee did 2 days, and then a stunt guy did most of the fight. I think that fight's great, though. I think the idea of them coming back together again, and you can see that Anakin Skywalker's like holding back, and then as soon as Obi-Wan's passed out, he's just like, I think I'm going to open up a bit. And
yeah, time to do a bit of evil, I reckon. Now Granddad's asleep, I reckon I'll do a bit of evil.
Yeah. And I know, he's goaded into kind of chopping off his head, but he wasn't goaded into chopping off his hands. He did that on his own.
Well, that's a bit of fun bit of payback.
Yeah, but you see, around Obi-Wan, he's more measured, when they get caught in the ray shields, and he's like, I think we should wait. Whereas
and if Obi-Wan were gone, he'd be like, I reckon we should chop off these Ray Shields' hands.
That's it.
Hey, Ray Shields, come here, buddy. Chopping your hand off, mate.
But that whole sequence, even the bit where they land in the hangar bay and Obi-Wan does a huge flip out of his ship before it's even stopped, just great stuff. And there's the moment where they're fighting the bodyguard droids with a big, sparkly sticks or whatever.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan like one, then he's like, okay, and he turns his back and he's like, oh shit, this fight's still going. I'm still in a fight right now. I love little inclusions like that, But speaking of droids, well, he's not really a droid. He's a cyborg man, creature, alien boy. Grievous.
Oh, yes.
Now, it's said that, Grievous can kill a bunch of Jedi because he's too intimidating. He's a whirlwind of, intimidation and fury, and where is he? You know what I mean? He's got so many arms and lightsabers.
He's under that big cloak. That's where he is.
Yeah, most of him's under that cloak. What's left of him is under the cloak. But again, and we saw this in the Clone Wars animated series, the first one, because Mace Windu does this. Just crush him.
Right?
I don't understand. I genuinely do not get the threat. I don't get it.
Now the assertion is from people opposed to your view, which is merely a certain point of view, James.
That he had some of Cypher Deus's blood in him?
No, I was going to say that just crushing him, like crushing his brain or crushing his heart or whatever, would be evil.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do that. But again, Jedi are chopping people's heads off all the time.
Also, Obi-Wan shoots him with a gun.
Shoots him with a regular
gun. So that's
gun.
fine, is it?
Yeah. But I mean, at the very least, you maybe like snap the helmet closed over his eyes or whatever.
Exactly.
He'd be like, and then chop his limbs off.
I got a question for you.
Go on.
Have you ever seen a man riding a big iguana chasing a robot in a big wheel?
This week? No.
Think, have you?
Oh, maybe in the movie. Movie Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, where'd the iguana come from? Because it's his friend, right?
Yeah,
it's Obi-Wan's friend.
I think it's just part of that planet's like ecosphere, you know?
Did he have to? Did he?
It wasn't in the ship, no.
Well, I was because he's like, hey, come here, buddy, and it's already there, and it's like, did you tame that?
He's got Jedi powers. He's calming its mind.
Initially, I thought that was maybe one of the monsters that they defeated in the monster pit in Episode 2.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe he became friends with it afterwards.
He's just shipping it planet to planet.
Yes.
Fair enough.
But imagine being Ewan McGregor that day, and they're like,
oh, it's really funny. You should see the behind the scenes
oh, is it just like a big green pommel horse?
Yeah,
like
much.
a bucking bronco that you put a coin in? And they're like, this is going to be a big iguana, Ewan. So,
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Is this the same thing that I'm going to be riding at the end of the movie when I hand over the baby? No, that's a different thing. That's like a camel thing.
Just react exactly as you would if you were riding a giant iguana. Okay, sure.
He's talked multiple times about how, and even, at the time of filming this, it's in the behind the scenes where, yeah, he's like, it's hard. Because you just don't know what you're looking at. That being said, there is a lot of model work in this still.
Yeah.
Like that volcano, for the most part, is model work. Obviously with CGI enhancements.
Yeah.
They filmed Mount Etna when it erupted and used a lot of fire in that. But yeah, and I think one of the things that also helps this movie is Trish Biggar, who does all the costumes. Because if you're not on a set, and there were a few sets that they did build, like Padme's apartment and one corridor of that ship, and other things as well. You're standing across from somebody in a costume, hopefully, unless it's a CGI creature, and then you kind of know what you're reacting to, and I think that makes a big difference,
Yeah. Are we going to slot this in somewhere? Just Obi-Wan fighting Grievous?
Yeah, let's do that right now.
Okay, I was going to say, because Obi-Wan's plan, evidently, is to leap in front of Grievous and completely surrounded by like an army of droids and aliens and monsters, and just hope that he can goad Grievous into fighting him one-on-one, right?
Yes.
Because he saw what happened in Episode 2. He remembers Episode 2. He remembers it very well.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
all those Jedi getting slaughtered. And he's like, you know what would make this more fun? Worse odds for me. Way worse odds.
But I kind of like that idea of how much he's grown, and he's been doing like 2 to 3 years of war. So he's probably like, I could probably backflip out of this, I reckon, if I need to.
Yeah.
You know? I
could probably whistle for some sort of giant alien creature to whisk me away. Do I know any giant bees? Some sort of alien dragonfly type that could pick me up, whisk me out of here.
How you feeling about, really ramping up the lightsaber battles in this, where it gets to the point where you're fighting something with 4 lightsabers? Do you think it's too much? Do you think it's just the right amount of lightsabers?
I think there should be more lightsabers.
More lightsabers.
Yeah, more lightsabers, yeah.
I think there's memes of that where like...
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I think that fight gets more interesting, first of all, with the iguana chase sequence.
Sure.
But even better than that, when they go hand to hand. Like, that's when it's fun for me. Not when it's just a spinning whirlwind of lightsabers. It's like, yeah, cool, I guess. But when he kicks Grievous and he's like, oh, God, he's made of metal. I kicked one of the metal bits. That's the stuff that I like. Also,
I should have kicked his soft alien genitals. Wherever they are. Joke's on you, Obi-Wan, they are in my foot. But I've coated it in metal.
As you would, yeah. Also, all Jedi, they should just have a gun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty good with a lightsaber, but imagine if you had a lightsaber and a gun.
Lightsaber that turns into a gun.
Well, we've seen that in Star Wars Rebels.
Oh.
You know what you love? You love seeing things that you've seen before. I know that.
Yeah,
when you come to my house, you're like, I've seen this couch. I saw it last week.
Yeah.
But this time around, we get Chewbacca.
I want to jump on it again.
But this time around, we get Chewbacca,
Yeah.
And that's fun. Now, originally, he was supposed to be paired with little boy Han Solo.
All right.
There's a few cut subplots in this, but this one would have had them helping locate General Grievous by finding part of a transmitter droid. which meant Obi-Wan could go find him on Utapau, right?
Okay.
But thank you so much for not doing that.
Right.
Like, you
how
don't need any
little
of
would
that.
this little boy be? Like Jake Lloyd age, or maybe like young teen or something?
Well, if Luke and Leia are born in this movie, he'd be like 10-ish.
Yeah, he'd be older than them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But, you know, I think the idea of just like him and Chewbacca have been friends since he's a little boy, it's like, that's nothing. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's a little bit Calvin and Hobbes, and I like that.
Sure.
But, and also, who do you get?
Yeah.
Frankie Muniz? Yeah.
You get little Alden Ehrenreich.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
You think about him doing that movie in years to come, and you get ahead of it.
Yeah, nice. That's
You know
a great
what I
idea,
mean?
yeah.
I think the whole stuff with Yoda and the Wookiees, I'm not really interested in like that planet. It only serves to kind of have him be off planet for Order 66, I guess,
right.
which we will get to. There's a deleted scene actually where he arrives on Dagobah, but they had to get rid of it because you don't need to see everything.
Oh, like his final like resting place,
Yeah.
as it were. Okay.
The door opens and he looks out and he goes, "Oh fuck, no! Oh god, this is what a horrible place."
There's already a hut there. There's like one other hermit living there, and Yoda just shoots him, drags his body into a shallow grave, and he's like, "I live here now."
This is my planet.
Sits on his little seat like he's Boba Fett.
Palpatine though. Do it. I like that people are beginning to notice that he's not great. Like, even if he's not a
that he's
Sith,
yeah.
which he obviously is and he always has been, where people are like, this isn't lining up. Why is this guy still in power? This war is going forever. He seems very aggressive, this man.
I'm starting to think there aren't heroes on both sides.
Exactly. Not everybody cottons on. For example, Anakin. I guess he's sort of...
He's a dumb guy.
Yeah, he's a dumb guy. And we'll talk
He's
about
just a
that.
himbo. It's not his fault.
Yeah, but like the moment where, you know, Obi-Wan's pinned under that thing after he kills Dooku, and Palpatine's like, just, leave him. And
Yeah.
Anakin's not like, excuse me?
Excuse me, Mr. Palpatine?
But I enjoy that, like, Obi-Wan and the Jedi hate Palpatine, and Palpatine hates them.
Sure, right.
I like that kind of dynamic, and he's trying to infiltrate Anakin into that group for his own nefarious purposes. Because I don't know if you know this, Mason.
Go on.
He's the bad guy.
What?
Yes! Anyways, Palpatine and Anakin, the weird...
Palpakin.
Thank
which
you.
is their couple name.
That's right. The weird, ominous squid opera.
Wait, give me a moment.
Okay.
Anatine. Not as good.
Right, the other one's better.
Sounds like some sort of malted milk drink.
It does, but off-brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of people's favourite sequences in this movie, including the two actors that are in it, is the weird, ominous squid opera situation.
Oh, yes.
Where they sit down together and he's like, I'm going to tell you a great Sith proverb that only I know.
Nothing better than a squid opera scene in a sci-fi movie. Fifth Element?
I'm well into
Kidding
it.
me?
Yeah. You kidding me? That was originally actually just supposed to be in his office.
Oh.
And I'm glad they went, maybe we don't film this one in the office. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
We've had a bit of that going on. But like, there's even a moment where Anakin walks in on his office and you just see that Palpatine's just looking at the Death Star plans. I don't know if you noticed that, but he's just like, this could work. Yeah, I'm into this.
He's going through a sexy weapon of mass destruction calendar. He's just opening it up like a Playboy. He's like,
Hello.
not bad. July is a torture droid. What do you think about that?
Darksaber. That's a legend situation though, Mason. Let me tell you that right now. Well, not the one from the Mandalorian. The other, there's two Darksabers. Let's not do this. Let's not get into this.
Also, I also don't look. As soon as I said it, I'm also like, let's not get into that. Why would he be leafing through a calendar ahead of time? It'd be a catalogue.
If anything.
It's too late to switch it around. All right.
Exactly. I love that though that everybody's telling Anakin, including Obi-Wan, that like this is a bad guy. Like he's essentially grooming him, and we know that because Anakin's like, he's not a bad guy. He watched over me since I was a child, and I arrived here. Yeah, that's a red flag, man. Like that's a bad thing. And also he's like, and he put me on the council, and he told me to leave you to die on the ship, and he told me he was a Sith Lord. Oh, wait a minute. It takes him that long.
How could I be on the council but not be a master? I don't know.
Because your boss got you on
Your
there.
boss got it's a nepotism hire, dude. Come on.
Who's also maybe your dad. Have you heard about this theory?
Oh, because the theory is, I guess, that he put his evil midichlorians in her.
Yes.
And it resulted in an evil Anakin baby.
Yeah, something to that effect. But there was actually an earlier draft of this script where he says, I arranged for your conception. You might almost think of me as your father. And Anakin's like, no, that's not true. It's impossible. You know, it's the same.
It's the same thing.
Same thing
It's
or
like
whatever.
a tone poem.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing.
It's my favourite thing George Lucas has ever said.
I agree.
It's like a tone poem. Like a tone poem.
Tone poems.
So it's also been implied more recently in one of the Darth Vader comics that this is what happened.
Right.
But Matt Martin, who's a member of the story group, has come out and said, no, this is like a certain perspective and it's all part of a manipulation. And also George Lucas took it out for a reason because it's probably not true.
And it's also, you're right, it is very on the nose that it's exactly the same as the reveal in Empire Strikes Back. And that's
boring, quite frankly.
It's boring, and that revelation is more impressive if you don't have anything before it, I think. Your father's actually that guy, Gary.
Gary?
You know, Gary worked down the moisture farm?
Yeah, I met him.
Well, he's your dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do I have to talk to him?
Nah. I think he's dead. I think he fell in a moisture. Whatever they have, some sort of machinery they have at the moisture farm. I don't know. It's very vague, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Anyways, Mace Windu.
Oh, yeah.
Might be one of the dumbest people in these movies. There's a moment where he says, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. Yeah, you knew that from like 2 movies ago when the Sith turned up.
And probably your entire career, right? Like, surely, were you just aware of the Sith and you thought it was a different club with different coloured lightsabers?
Ridiculous.
What do you reckon they're doing over there? Come on, man.
The moment where Anakin kind of ambles up to him after finding out that he's a Sith Lord because he was told so, Mace Windu's reaction is, oh, how do you know he's a Sith Lord? And none of Anakin's answers are, yeah, he just fucking told me, like, just now. And so... You
know, you're not the only observant motherfucker on the planet.
Mace Windu...
And I don't think he was joking. I don't think he was joshing around.
He didn't say JK.
He said for reals.
But the idea that then Mace Windu, his reaction is to go, I'm just going to take the 3 guys that are currently with me to deal with this.
Yeah.
Those guys are literally with him when he finds out.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't think of, like, a wider execution of this plan.
Bring a tank.
Yeah. Bring a rock. Hit him with a rock.
Bring that robot that squirts out worms, poison worms.
Exactly. I mean, I know maybe he was trying to keep it low-key because you don't want to get caught conspiring against the government.
True.
But what a strategy. Because those guys, 3 of the 4 get killed, like, immediately.
Yeah.
And then it's just him fighting Ian McDiarmid and his face replacement.
So those guys are management.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably haven't done any lightsaber stuff in years.
They're not off planet, like, doing adventures with Obi-Wan, are they? They're bean counters.
Bring in some of the loose cannon Jedi. They don't play by the rules, but they get
Exactly.
results.
Bring in Quinlan Vos.
Bring in Quinlan Vos.
He gets a mention here. The fight with Mace Windu and Palpatine, I get that it's shot up close because it's all confined. And I love Ian McDiarmid's expression the whole time,
You know who else is loving Ian McDiarmid's expression? Ian McDiarmid.
Oh my God.
He's loving it.
Yeah, he's really crushing it. We were talking about this before we started recording, like concerning how much money he got from this and why does he do it and why did he come back for the new one. And I just think he's just having a great time.
Yeah.
Roll it again.
And the money.
Sure, yeah.
Those 2 things, yeah.
The director's just like, Ian, in this scene, just pick a number and say it, and that's how many spaceships you have. 1,000,000 star. Yep, great. That's great.
Yeah, cool.
That's great.
You got it.
No notes.
There's also some contention about whether or not the Emperor lost this fight on purpose or whether he was beaten.
Why would he want to lose, though? To get the weird googly moogly face?
Yeah, that's right. That's why. It's the only way to get it. So the official Lucasfilm line of this is from the novelization, that Mace Windu was using a vapid. It's his style of aggressive lightsaber fighting.
Oh, I think I remember reading that in some sort of Dorling Kindersley book.
Exactly.
Star Wars data files or whatever.
Yeah. And he also found his shatter point, which is apparently a thing that you can use where you find a person's breaking point, and it might be another person or a thought or a feeling. I don't know. It's a bit vague. And he used that against the Emperor.
I'm pretty sure that, like, every time I use a vending machine, it finds the thing I'm buying's shatter point. Every time I get the thing, I'm like, oh.
Oh, no. But it's also, I think, possible that the Emperor knew that he couldn't win that fight.
Because of the
vapid and the shatter point.
Yes.
So he thought, look, I can't defeat this guy 1-to-1, but I guess if Anakin's going to intervene, that's my chance here. So there you go.
Oh, you know why I remembered the Dorling Kindersley books?
Yeah.
Because one of them has Dooku in it. And it says, like, smug expression of superiority on it or whatever. And he's just like, I don't know where I am.
But better than you, though. Before we talk about Anakin's turn, I want to get into some scrapped concepts for this movie from earlier drafts. So when George Lucas was originally going through this, he realized that having Boba Fett getting revenge on the Jedi and Padme also founding the Rebel Alliance, which is in a deleted scene where Mon Mothma's in that, but then it was cut, but then she was brought back for Rogue One and other things, the actress who played her. So yeah, it was supposed to be Boba Fett getting revenge, Padme founding the Rebel Alliance.
Okay.
And there was an idea to have 7 battles over 7 planets going on, right, at one point in this movie.
As a nod to Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Exactly. Because, we talked about how escalating battles, how in episode 1 it was 4 battles at the end. I think they worked some of that into the Order 66 stuff.
So how'd they come up with 7?
I don't know.
Is it just one more than the last one?
Yes, one more, or maybe, I don't know. Who cares? It's not important. But he decided to just scrap all of that and focus on...
George Lucas comes into the pitch meeting, he's just written battles on a piece of paper, but then he turns the S into a dollar sign.
Oh, how many battles? 7. 7 battles.
Like 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
All right, George, it's fine.
Yeah, good. But he decided to just focus on the turn of Anakin. So all of that is in the bin, but also kind of used in other places. We've seen it in other media. I do, though, and I mentioned this up top, I feel the turn is a bit rushed. And I think also it's partially because the idea that he was going to save Padme from death, that was really emphasized in the reshoots. Because initially, his turn was going to be because he thought that the Jedi were going to take over.
I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over.
Right.
And so that's why he intervened.
Okay.
And I don't really think that either of them are fleshed out that well to make it convincing. I just don't believe that he wrecks Mace Windu and he gets flung out the window. Yes. Right. And then the idea that Palpatine's like, hey, you know how I said that we could stop people from dying? I can't do that. But what if we did it together? Like, you'd rethink your situation. You killed Mace Windu, but you can come back from that.
Can you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Actually, the window killed him.
Actually, the fall killed him, if he's even dead.
Actually, the fall didn't kill him, it was the sudden stop at the bottom.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation that Mace Windu is still alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not now. He would have died of old age.
Yeah.
And he's fictional. But Jedi survive falls all the time.
Absolutely,
You know what
they
I mean?
do. Yeah. Happens literally every movie.
But he hasn't returned in anything, right?
Not yet.
Okay,
No.
right.
I think he will. But we'll see.
will
Because,
see,
he's a character that people know and an actor that people know, so...
I guess once Secret Wars is finished, the Marvel series.
Yeah.
You'll probably...
Yeah, once Marvel just finishes making movies and TV shows, yeah. But, the idea that he wants to help Palpatine overthrow the Jedi because of love and also because he thinks the Jedi are evil. And as soon as Palpatine, explains that to him, and then he says, once more the Sith will rule the galaxy. And think critically, idiot. Do you not see? How do you not see this? This is why I think it should have been spaced out more.
I think he meant due to the incredible popularity of the raising people from the dead power.
That's true, yeah.
People will be loving it.
Yeah.
Give me a bit of that raising from the dead.
I would love some of that.
Yes, please.
Who would you bring back? Just so people know, this is an incredibly long pause. We edited it shorter, but a lot of time has passed.
Is it dinosaurs?
That's a good answer, actually.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Order 66.
Yes.
It's good.
Order 66 is good.
No, it's a good sequence.
Oh, sure,
You know? Great score by John Williams. The overall plan to, get the Jedi isolated with clone troopers on different worlds, you know what I mean? It totally makes sense.
Do you think the execution of Order 66 only works if Palpatine says it?
Yeah.
Or could it work anywhere? Like at a family restaurant or something?
Funny you should say that because in the Darth Vader comic, there's a Jedi Padawan who's still alive and he says it to some clone troopers in front of some Inquisitors. And because all the Inquisitors are former Jedi, they just start laying waste to them. So it's still in them.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
So anybody can say it. So if you happen to say it, I think that it just works. That being said, I think he used special Jedi mind powers as well. So there's also a really interesting theory that I saw from Eckhart's Ladder, who's got a Star Wars and Halo-based YouTube channel, where he talks about the purpose of the hyperspace ring as a mode of transportation for the Jedi.
Okay.
And the idea that those are Jedi and government-funded weaponry and vehicles.
Now, what's the hyperspace ring again? It's the thing you put your spaceship into.
You need one to escape or go anywhere.
Yeah, right.
But if you're isolated with clone troopers and they're trying to kill you, they could keep you on planet by just destroying that. So it's essentially they've built a trap into the system. And that's never been confirmed at all. But I really like that idea that the whole structure of the Jedi is just so broken and stupid and manipulated that every single level of it is just to get you killed, essentially.
Yeah. And also, they went to use the toilet, and the clone troopers had put some plastic wrap. Every angle they've got covered. It's incredible.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So Anakin and Padme have a relationship in this, don't they? I mean, she's barely in it, and she does nothing but have a big sook and then die. But there might be a reason for this, and this is a rumor. It's in the book How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, which is a really extensive history of like the franchise in general.
Okay.
The rumor was that Natalie Portman made some of the handmaidens cry in the first movie, including Keira Knightley. And so that explains like her reduced role in these movies.
Oh, because she was me.
Yeah, but like every actor is a weird lunatic. So, and you know,
And everybody has good and bad days.
yeah. So, and she
Yeah,
was
right.
like a child. She was like a literal child. I'm not excusing that behavior if it happened, but that's one of the explanations for why she's barely in it. But I also think that the way that they wrap up that is not super interesting. I mean, there's a moment where she's like, "I'm pregnant," and you see the look on his face of just like, "Oh no!" Like he's not.
What does that mean?
He's not happy.
I've never heard this word before.
Yeah. And that balcony scene where I'm in love with you. Well, I'm so in love with you. It's like, yeah, okay, that's really good. But I do wonder, what do you think would have happened if they had have both survived and he hadn't have killed all those kids? Do you
Probably
think
would have been a nice time for everyone.
But do you think he would have quit and gone to like after the war and gone to live on Naboo or whatever?
Yeah,
I think
that
he
sounds
might have.
nice.
I think he might have, Mason.
Unless Naboo was destroyed, I can't remember.
No, it wasn't, Mason.
That's terrific then. Seems lovely.
They had a big party in Return to the Jedi on it. They changed Return to the Jedi, so you see Naboo.
Oh.
And they're going, woo!
Nice.
Woo!
And they added that scene outside the Sydney Opera House.
That's right.
Like Australia was here too.
Yeah, with the big spaceship crashed into
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
terrific.
I know what
Yeah,
you mean, yeah. But then, of course, that leads us into the Mustafar breakup. It's so bizarre how he thinks that he's going to win her over. It's also so bizarre that they stay together at all when he's killing kids in like 2 of these 3 movies.
Yes.
Again, like he's such an idiot where he goes to her and he goes, "Hey, listen, forget all the rumors you've heard about me, but I can kill the Emperor and then me and you, we can rule the galaxy." And she's like, "What? No." And then he's like, "Oh, why not? Because of Obi-Wan." No. Like, what?
The murder thing you mentioned. And the killing of the kids.
Yeah.
Which I'm indifferent to. I only like my kids.
That's right. There is actually a piece of concept art and a plot point they were going to put in where she pulls a knife on him.
Whoa.
And she's going to stab him, but she can't do it. And I think that would have been more interesting than just like, it's just not that interesting.
Yeah. Also, he's got a lightsaber. He'd chop her hands right off.
Exactly. But, give her a bit of agency. Have something happen, not just like, oh, she dies because she's the saddest woman in the galaxy.
Right.
It feels rushed. Anyway, politics.
Uh-oh.
You thought we'd escaped it, didn't you?
Yes, I thought this was going to be the big action finale.
Well, what about the moment where Anakin screams, "If you're not with me, then you're my enemy"? Because, it's an obvious...
Oh, that's a... Yeah,
it's a George Bush line in relation after 9/11, whatever. And look, I know people don't like to hear that. I mentioned that,
It's just a completely coincidental sequence of words, James.
Yeah, I know. But look, around this...
George Lucas was in his bathtub with his rubber duckies and he's like, you know what, I'm going to put this in.
Yeah.
Just thought of it off the top of my head.
Just by pure happenstance. But by this point, George Lucas...
If you're not with me, you're against me, rubber duckies.
But at this point in his life, George Lucas was very openly political. It was more kind of subtle in his earlier movies, but he's mentioned in an interview and he's openly compared the Iraq War to the Vietnam War and, George Bush and Nixon and all of these things, how, history is repeating itself and terrible presidents and all of these things and wars that put in place for basically, for no reason other than to profit, a very few amount of people. And look, I know people don't like to hear that, but take it up with George Lucas because...
I mean, you said all that, but all I heard was freedom, so...
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Say what you like, dude.
Anyways, the big fight. There's a big fight at the end, and let me tell you this, Mason. Can something, be really well thought out and escalate wildly? And there's lava and there's bits breaking off and everyone's doing big flips and screaming at each other, and you're watching it and I'm just like... It's kind of washing over me at a point. Like, it's both things to me, this fight.
Interesting,
It's beautifully, manufactured and played out. And Nick Gillard, the stunt coordinator, putting it all together. And the John Williams score, the Battle of Heroes. And it blends into Duel of the Fates. And all that is incredible.
But I think the word you used there was manufactured. And I think maybe that's why it doesn't maybe connect with people. Because
you think movies should be natural. And you just get people in their homes.
Yeah, I would have waited for Ewan McGregor and...
Hayden Christensen.
To just have a fight. Just have a fight. What I would do is I would pick some sort of baked good that they both liked, and I would put one on the craft services table.
Yeah.
And I would wait for them to argue over it, and then I would film that, and I would just CGI and lightsabers over the top. But no, I think, because there is some, we get the classic line of, you were the chosen one, and all that sort of stuff. But I think the emotion is too few and far between, and there's just so much of, conveyor belt fighting, as it were.
Yeah.
Just so much jumping and so on.
What I do like about it, though, is that you see them physically slow down. By the end, they're just kind of hacking at each other on that floating platform or whatever. And also you see that Obi-Wan is just on the back foot the entire time.
Because that's because they'd run out of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
They hadn't had their croissant.
Yes. And they both used their big force dash previously, and you can only use it once.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that Obi-Wan won not because he's naturally more gifted.
Because one is in his name.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but he's more experienced and he's patient and he's maybe technically more proficient.
Yes.
Or at least technically they're on the same level, I would say.
I reckon it's also probably because Obi-Wan trained him to be worse.
Yeah, you might be
I'd
right.
add that in if I were him.
Yeah.
I'd train him to be blind to one particular move.
Like his left.
Yeah, like his entire left. Then if it came down to him and me, I'd just stab him in the left.
Yeah, anyways, this is all broken up though with the Yoda fight with Palpatine. But that whole Sidious fight, I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, I like the idea that, he gives him a big push and he tips over the chair and you see he's wearing black suit slacks under his robe. I like all that.
We were all expecting white boxes with red love hearts on them.
Weren't we just?
Yeah.
I don't know, but at the end, Yoda's just I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because he had to get there. He had to end up on Dagobah and be defeated and miserable.
Yeah.
But it did. Yeah, it absolutely felt like he went, well, this is how this has to go. So I guess I give up now.
Because I remember leading up to this, after watching Return of the Jedi, there's a line where Yoda says to Luke in that, "Don't underestimate the power of the Emperor." But I don't think that fight conveys that the Emperor got the better of him. I think that he fell, but it was mostly pretty even.
Yeah, right.
I think he should have been thoroughly beaten.
Get my guy if you green cunt.
Thoroughly beaten or beaten in a blackmail way. Well, maybe you could beat me, Yoda, but if you, I'll kill your weird wife.
Yaddle?
Yeah, Yaddle.
Okay, cool. Yaddle, that character that was in the first movie. I'm gonna kill that whatever that is. I'm gonna kill it. Yeah.
So bloody get out of here.
Yeah, get out.
I assume you know and love Yaddle because you look sort of the same.
This all leads into, of course, Anakin's big accident.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, he's in a big accident.
Oh.
It's like wetting your pants times 1,000,000.
That is true. Very embarrassing as an adult, especially.
Wow. I want to talk about the high ground though. Specifically, how does that work?
Okay.
Because first of all, you shouldn't just do a big flip over somebody. I mean, we've seen it before.
Because it's rude, is what you're saying.
It's very rude, yeah.
Right?
It's very gauche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody did a big flip over me, I'd be worried that they read something on my phone. Like they were reading my texts or whatever. Get out of here.
Stop it. Because, he could have just jumped to the bank in front of Obi-Wan and they could have just continued having a sword fight. Mm-hmm. But I think the way that I justify how this happens is that I think Obi-Wan goaded him into it.
Okay.
I think he was just bullshitting about the high ground. Because I know, strategically in battle, it is an advantage.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But in this situation...
If you have a gun.
Yeah, if you have a gun, yeah. But in this situation, I just don't really see how it applies. And I think, Obi-Wan being I've got the high ground, you better not do anything, was a way of being I'm going to see if I can get him to do a somersault.
It was a real don't throw me in the briar patch moment.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think happened here.
Basically, I would have to bet on you making a mistake.
I mean, everybody has their own version of this in their mind, I guess, but yeah.
Wow. I imagine at this point, many martial artists and sword fighters have weighed in about whether that was the wise move.
And they all think I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. I asked them all.
Ah.
They signed this petition. You have to stop doing YouTube.
Anyways, the movie wraps up on a big montage. She lost the will to live, etc. Qui-Gon's back he's used the Force and he's back and he's a ghost. Darth Vader being, nah, no! Should have just screamed. Doesn't matter, whatever. It's in the movie, isn't it? I was also hoping for half a movie.
I shall call you Darth Vader. Why though?
Because he had it ready to go. He probably had a list.
Yeah, he probably did.
You telling me you didn't have that?
So it's got, yeah, I guess, but I mean, I'm just curious as to where the names come from. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because Vader sounds like father. Is that what it is? It sounds like father in German or something.
I think it's just a word that George Lucas picked in the 70s.
It just has a good mouthfeel, I think. Darth Vader. Yes. Yes.
And then he's shooting lightning.
Yeah, he's shooting lightning. Yeah. This afternoon's been very productive. Yes.
Leading into these movies, though, I always kind of hoped for more Darth Vader. And look,
Yeah.
we have seen that since. But seeing as this was going to be like the last we'd see of these characters, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually think that was ever supposed to be the case. You know, I think I know George Lucas has kind of stood by at the time that this was going to be it, but I don't think, you know, he actually meant that.
Hollywood is full of lies.
Exactly. But, you know, just him kind of stepping off the table and having a big scream, and then, you know, it cuts to him on a ship and he crosses his arms. It's like, okay, that's, you know.
I'm feeling better now. I had a rough morning, but I've processed it now.
This suit chafes a little, but at least I'm back on my robot legs.
I've been given a balm. I put a balm on.
Just looked like they put the suit over the birds, really.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
It's probably part of the anger and the pain and all of those things.
The suit squirts out a balm.
Yeah, you hope so.
Yeah, you'd reckon. Right.
Yeah. Do you think he's the chosen one?
Nah.
George Lucas says he is, so you're wrong.
Oh, damn it.
And there's other...
I went, it was 50-50, and I took a shot.
I mean, there's other interpretations of it, so who knows, really. Yeah. But that's what George Lucas said.
Okay.
Anyway, it's the Twin Sons because that was in a movie. And then the music goes... Now look.
And then it's the disco version.
I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan too.
Now look.
Yes.
I need to specify this as I have every week. And I've got more things to say because I've got to do green trivia, obviously.
Of course.
We haven't covered everything, right?
Oh, what?
For example, Yoda's lightsaber controversy.
We've been going long enough.
Great.
It feels like we've covered everything, but all right. What's Yoda's lightsaber controversy?
Where in a comic his lightsaber is destroyed, but then it turns up in an episode of the Book of Boba Fett. But, you know, maybe he had two. It doesn't really matter.
I'd have a backup for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got two sets of keys, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Imagine you show up to a big battle and you're like, check your glove box and you're like,
That's right.
I left it at home.
Exactly. Now, obviously, of course, this title was taken from the original title of Return of the Jedi, which
is going to be Revenge of the Jedi.
That's right. So I really like that. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of Ewan McGregor just training in blue jeans, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
Just going to the gym in his jeans.
Yeah.
He's a Jim Jeans guy.
I don't like it.
No, weird. What's those people's story?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And look, you know, anything that you wish we had have talked about, you can absolutely leave it below. But look, I implore you, look, if you're here to say, well, they're not very good, but at least they're not the Disney trilogy. Yeah, okay, I've seen it. I know. I like 1,000,000 times I've seen that.
Oh, do you think
it's an incredibly hot take?
It is very hot. Do you think we should do a tidbits episode where it's just stuff we didn't mention?
Oh wow,
or
yeah.
Do a commenter version, and
yeah.
we can just rattle stuff off and make fun of it.
I would love that, actually.
Let's just of the whole thing of the trilogy. Just,
yeah.
Folks, put some facts in the comments, and we will.
We might do it.
We will explain to you personally why we left that part out on purpose.
Anyway, it's time for green trivia.
Green trivia.
So the Millennium Falcon is in this. There's a moment where you see it like leave Coruscant or whatever.
Oh, so it is the Millennium Falcon, not that particular model of ship.
Well, look, in Legends it is, but also who knows what's happened since then. When it turns up in Solo, it's got that bit jammed in the front of it.
Yeah,
but you know that's probably an addition.
Maybe he ejected the nose bit in Solo, and then he got an extra nose bit like later on.
Exactly. I mean, this is before Solo, but yes.
Yeah, sure.
Also, they were actually going to use archival footage and digital trickery to put Peter Cushing in this movie. Which couldn't be done at the time, considering what they had, so they recast the role.
And it couldn't be done later when they did it. That next time as well.
Some would argue that, yes, it couldn't be done the time they actually did it. Yeah, they should have put him on a hologram. I just feel like, you know what I mean? But don't get me wrong, it's a technical marvel.
Or a voicemail. Just a voicemail. Hello, this is Tarkin. Hello. Oh, wait. Oh, this is a voicemail. Death to the rebels. I'll call you later.
Love you, Mum. You might not actually know this, but the working title for the original Star Wars was Blue Harvest.
I didn't know that. That's great. It's great fact to know.
Thanks, man. So General Grievous, of his 4 lightsabers that we see him holding, 2 of them match the designs exactly to that of Anakin and Obi-Wan.
What?
Which makes me think that
there was extra props on set.
you know, they had a digital, copy of that, obviously, because you can just copy and paste in the computer. There's a fun fact for you.
That's terrific.
But also, every design we've seen in the Clone Wars is archived. So either they copied it or somebody else did, or it's just a generic template that people can
maybe,
use.
yeah,
You
right,
know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, they got it on AliExpress. Standard lightsaber.
That's it. George Lucas actually appears in this movie, as do his kids.
Thank God I picked one-day delivery. Left my lightsaber at home. My spare wasn't in the glove box.
George Lucas actually appears in this movie, as do his kids. For example, the Jedi that Jimmy Smits sees get cut down, that's Jet Lucas, his son.
Oh.
Also, in the trailer, you might have noticed, because I know you watch the trailer for this movie most mornings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gets you jazzed for your rise and grind lifestyle.
Yep. That's right.
In the trailer, his arms are up when he comes off the table, but then in the movie, they're down.
Oh.
And George requested that it was CGI'd to have them placed down, and then that's why he pulls them up when he gets off the table.
I see.
So yeah, I don't know why, but that's in it.
That would suggest that somewhere on a hard drive, there's a version where he's got 4 arms.
Yeah.
Just the midpoint.
Can we have that, please? If you've got that, we want it. Give us it.
And yes, I know they would have deleted the arms first. I don't care.
Give us it.
I think there's 4 arms. I think it's a 4-arm version.
And the last bit of green trivia. I'm going to make this really green trivia, Mason.
Okay.
So this is one of the shiniest C-3POs we've ever seen. And as a result, he reflects everything, like the crew, the camera, the green screen. So it was somebody's job to go in and painstakingly take out all of that reflection stuff in every single frame that he's
They
in.
learned nothing from RoboCop, original RoboCop. That's why he's blue in the sequel.
Oh, really?
Because he reflected too much camera stuff.
I can't believe they learnt nothing from the movie RoboCop 2.
Right?
Ridiculous.
Amazing.
Now, just quickly to talk box office, Mason, you might think that with a budget of $113 million, that it probably made about $868 million at the worldwide box office.
I would have thought exactly that, yes. Are you going to correct me on that? Or?
I mean, there's some more numbers, like not specifically 868, but yes, you were correct in thinking that.
Damn, I'm good.
It also made the second highest amount of money for the prequels. Obviously, you couldn't really beat The Phantom Menace because that was a big movie despite not being a great movie. Would you say? Is that another thing you think?
I don't even know anymore, God.
And it's also the 7th adjusted for inflation most successful Star Wars movie.
Of 9.
I mean, and spin-offs and whatnot.
Okay, right, sure.
It's Solo and then just everything else.
Okay, great.
There's a big gap and then everything else. Anyways, what a journey! Wow, across this trilogy of films, including every single video game that they've had of those, isn't it? We did all of them.
Correct, yes.
Amazing. Just want to say a huge thank you, first of all, to you, Mason.
Thank you.
'Cause
You're
I know,
very welcome.
I know you hate Star Wars.
I'm not a huge fan. I'm not the hugest. I like Star Wars,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And also, an even bigger thanks to both Ben and Lawrence for editing these together.
That's right.
There's a reason they came out, 2 weeks apart, because there's so much. And these
Star Wars is so much.
These are way too long. Now, a lot of people have said, can you come back and talk about, the originals and the sequels? And I think, yeah, we will do that. And we'll probably do them in that order, maybe every year or 2 years. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Whenever search engine optimization requires it. Whenever it is on trend and
Exactly.
on fleek
Yep.
and totally bussin'.
If you see numbers just drop wildly off on this channel, you better believe we're doing those films.
That's right.
But if you do have any suggestions for Caravan of Garbage, please leave them below. We are open to literally anything that you want to see. And if you do want to see these early, if you head over to bigsandwich.co, they always go up early. And there's also movie commentaries. We've done every Star Wars movie.
That's right.
There's also bonus podcasts.
Ooh.
There's also our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out there on Sunday as opposed to Monday. Basically, that's how we pay a lot of the bills. We keep
right.
the lights on, pay all the editors and all of that. But thank you for coming on this journey. Just shut up about the sequels. Shut up about them. I know you think...
This is the way you're going to wind this up?
Yep.
Everyone shut up?
I'm sick of it. At least it's not the... Yes, I understand your feelings on that. I get it. If you're a person in the world, that's what I feel like is your default setting. I don't need you to tell me. I know.
Nice. That's great.
Anyways, but no, thank you for watching.
Grab that gem, you guys. We'll see you next time.